So, John, man, it's been a while since we've been on the air here.
Oh, my Lord, it's been forever.
What, 6 months, something like that? 4 months, 5 months? It's been a long time.
It's been at least 6 months. It's been 3 months anyway that we've been working on the new building. So
we've been in there since January.
Yeah, so it's been 6 months since we've done,
maybe
since
5.
we've been on mic.
December, maybe? November?
No. We weren't on the mic in November, December.
Oh, Happy New Year, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
April 2019.
Happy quarter of a year gone.
Well, just for everybody that listens to our show, we got a building in downtown Hillsdale, 75 North Broad Street. We just been fixing that up. It's been a lot of work. We're about 2-3 months, John, delay here?
Well, yeah, I mean, we thought things were gonna move a lot faster than they were. We didn't think that there was as many problems with the building as there were, but when we got into it, there was more than what we thought we were going to have to do.
But it turned out to be a really nice project.
The other thing is we didn't want to do things halfway. So
sure, yeah. Well,
we put way more in than we probably should have.
As everybody knows, when you start on a project, you go from one project to the next, or you get it. You start getting into it. You realize you got to just tear it down.
One area leads to another area.
That's right.
Leads to another.
Remods are just tough to deal with.
It is tough.
So. But we're just about done. We got about probably another month before. I mean, we're ready to go.
We could have it done in a week if we had the funds. We just don't have the funds.
Well, we don't have the funds for the cameras. We got to get some chairs we got the new table. We went up to a barn I was taking down, and we're going to custom make our table. So we got these wood from a barn that I'm tearing down up in Brighton.
White oak.
Yeah, it's pretty
old
sweet.
White oak.
So we're pretty excited for that. But
actually, knotless white oak.
Yeah,
it's gorgeous wood.
So we took down a stall wall and we cut it into 2 tables. We're gonna have those. We're gonna custom make those tables.
Stall wall sounds like we took down a urinal separator.
Oh, yeah.
It was.
That's what it was for a horse.
It was a manger stall.
Yeah, that's essentially what it was for a horse, right? So I mean, I wonder how many times they got urinated on.
Quite a few, I'm sure.
But yeah, so just so everybody knows what's going on, we haven't done the podcast because we've just been doing a lot of work on that building, and we wanted to start off the new year on a new foot with some video content and stuff, but it just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, it's going to get there. It's going to get there
with the millage that's coming around the corner here, and with
May 7th,
and with the content that I put out with Mr. Shannon Handy. I just couldn't help myself, but we had to do a show on this and kind of get ahead of the curve here.
It begs that we do it. There's too much misinformation, and I'm going to say it. There's just too much outright lies coming out,
right?
Trying to trick people into things that they shouldn't be tricked into.
Also, our inner circle of friends are wondering when we're going to make the next podcast, and we're starting to get new users coming on to the page and stuff like that, because a lot of people don't know is that YouTube clip got like 2,700 views, something like that, 2,600 views.
Unbelievable.
The outreach on Facebook said over 8,000. Now, I'm not an expert on social media, so I don't know what those numbers reflect or why and what. But there was a lot of shares. It was 76 shares or 80 shares or something like that.
I would have to say what it reflects. And this is just my opinion. I think what it reflects in an area or in an area with a population as small as ours, I would have to say that's viral.
Yeah, I mean for our
community.
But it didn't get a lot of content comments. It didn't have a lot of comments, so I don't know. John, when the average person probably watches that, they probably don't know what to say. They're probably scared to make a comment because they really don't know what is wrong or how it's wrong.
Well, let's look at it. The comments that people leave are really feedback for us.
Yeah.
So we don't know what's going on. That doesn't mean that information wasn't necessary, or that people didn't take it in and use it for what it was intended for them to use, which is to inform them of what's going on in their criminal justice system.
Well, I wanted to kind of let people know on what was going on during that video. the average person that sees that video doesn't know like what the
most people have never been through a pretrial.
Exactly, and a lot of people don't know what the position of a prosecuting attorney ethically what they're supposed to do, or ethically what a judge.
I don't know that our prosecuting attorney knows ethically what he's supposed to do.
What they're supposed to be doing, I guess, or the judge, or even the pre-appointed attorney. Obviously, I never met Kimm Burger beforehand, so I can't really say nothing negative of Kimm Burger, except the interaction that I had with her that day. I know if that was
she seemed to think that you'd said something negative about her.
Of course, because
I think she was ascribing that to me.
No, I think she was ascribing that to Anthony Hart.
No, because you know Anthony and I know Anthony, and I think also because she knows me, and of course during my sheriff election she got on my Facebook page.
Oh yeah.
And in my opinion made a fool of herself because she demonstrated there that she doesn't understand the law.
Well, okay, so in my opinion, she scared Shannon into taking a plea of a charge that he didn't do. And
she even admitted that she thought it was bogus and that he was innocent
on multiple occasions, not just during the video, but after the video. When I was on the phone with you, when I was leaving the courthouse, I yelled across the street, that was bogus, and then she said, I didn't say it wasn't, and then just got in the car and drove away. If she knew that was bogus, or if she knew that
she has a moral obligation at some point.
Yeah, she should have fought that. She should have told Shannon, you know what, we should fight this.
Well, no, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, and I'm going to defend Kimm.
Okay.
Kimm spent a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of heartache to get that P license, to get that P number. I understand that. And she has...
Hey, John, those Starbursts good over there?
Yeah, they are.
You're smacking
Can you
your
hear
lips?
them? I'm sorry.
No, don't worry about it, man.
I'm sorry. I have no radio etiquette. But in her defense, she spent a lot of time and money to get that license, spent a lot of time and money in school.
Yeah.
And there's a thing in there that you're not supposed to give your clients false hope. You're not supposed to guarantee them an outcome. And you have to do what any other lawyer would do at the time. Now, in her defense, she probably did what any other lawyer would do.
You mean any other pre-appointed attorney?
Court-appointed, not pre-appointed, but court-appointed.
Oh, okay, yeah, court-appointed. I've been saying court-appointed too.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why. As soon as the mic went hot, you started calling it pre-appointed. But anyway, so in her defense, she has to do what another lawyer would do because she could be sued if she doesn't. And that's under the MRPC, Michigan Rules for Professional Conduct.
And that's exactly what happened with the Anthony Hart case, right?
Yes, but so I understand. I'm going to defend her on that point that she does have to do that because that's a real concern. That's a real worry that she has to worry about. And nobody wants to put all that time and effort and money into a Juris Doctorate degree to not be able to use it because you've been sued because under the MRPC. And so I will defend her on that point.
And John, I want to state this too. Since the video content is of just Kimm, this isn't a situation where I blame just Kimm. I put that out there too, that it's a whole. She's just a clog in the machine.
Not a clog. She's a cog.
Oh, is that the word?
Yeah, cog. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I put clog on.
No, you use Drano on a clog.
Oh, gotcha.
She's a cog in the machine.
Yeah.
But yes,
I gotta go edit that now.
But that's true. She is, and it's not. Here's the thing. Kimm does have some blame,
right,
in this because
just a little.
If you're either part of the problem or part of the solution,
that's
and
right.
She's in the system, and the system's broken, she's part of the problem. But I will defend her that she did spend a lot of time and effort, and she may be a little overwhelmed in feeling that one person can't make a difference. The other thing is,
if you can't
beat them, join them.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was in the same situation with the state. I saw that where there was things that were.
You probably were like that in the military.
There's in different areas there's systemic problems that are there. If you fight them, you have a miserable life.
Oh, by the way, did you see that video that I sent over to you today with those four guys sitting at a bench?
Yeah, being chained and being stabbed. That's
in the prison system. John, with protocol, that can't happen.
No.
So that was a setup.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's officers that are supposed to interpose themselves in those situations.
Of course.
Even if it's dangerous.
Yeah, why'd it take so long for them to respond?
And a prison, hey, I've been in that situation in a prison before where, it's 5 of them and 1 of you, and you don't have a choice. And,
yeah, you do. You have a choice.
Well, morally, you don't.
I get it.
You've got backup coming. You don't know when they're going to get there, but you still have to act.
Yeah.
And it's tough. It's tough to weigh the moral.
Well, okay,
going
back to Kimm, she's the cog in the machine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we got a problem with the prosecuting attorney forcing this forward when they know it's a phony charge.
We've got a problem with the system.
Yeah.
It's not her.
Right.
But it is systemic in people like her.
That's right.
That don't fight against it. Now, we don't know. She might be fighting against it. We just don't see. And everybody has their line of demarcation, right? Everybody has their final protective line.
Yeah.
And those things just might not hit her final protective line, because there are people I know when I caught the state changing felony evidence and reported it, and they came after me, I had people telling me, "Well, John, you gotta learn how to pick your battles." And I said, well, my problem is if you're living by principles, your battles pick you. You don't have that luxury.
And that's sort of our struggle, is because we're so principle minded that
some people call it. I call it principled. Some people call it stupid. Because some people go, well, you should go along to get along, get to that position, and then change it. But I don't know how I can be a whore, and then when I get to a position where I can change it, claim to be a virgin. It doesn't work that way in my book.
Right. Like if I became township supervisor, I can't just go along to get along. I would have to fist pump all the time.
The problem is you have to go along to get to get elected to that position.
Right.
Then at that point in time, how do you change and be different?
And it seems like it gets worse as you get into you get on a state level or you get into the national level.
Most definitely. It just gets dirtier.
Yeah, it just keeps getting worse.
But like I say, it's a systemic problem within the system, and it's because we the people have gone to sleep. Our founding fathers set this all up and told us how we could prevent against faction and prevent against despotism. But the problem is we went to sleep. But if we look at the 700 years of history coming up to the Declaration of Independence, we understand that there's this frequency. There's these times of liberty that swell up, and then the people go to sleep, and then there's times of despotism. And then it comes back up, and there's times of liberty, and then it goes back down, times of despotism. This is a natural order.
Sure.
And we're seeing it today.
And I guess if you're a spiritual or religious person, until the quickening happens, and
well, yeah, and you can see that as part of, but it's part of prophecy. I understand. If you're religious, it is part of prophecy, and you understand that it's part of prophecy. But just because it's part of prophecy does not give us the permission to not stand for what's right.
Duty.
Just because we know it's going to happen doesn't mean that we shouldn't stand against it.
Yeah, that's why I said it to one of my best friends that was leaving the house tonight. He was trying to get to, how do we fix it? And he was getting to the question of, more on a national level, I guess you would say, or on a greater scale of, what do we do or how can we do it? And I'm telling him, I'm like, it's spiritual at this point. We can't touch that.
It is spiritual, but it's also secular. One of the people asked me,
"Man, those starbursts are good, aren't they?"
Oh man, I'm sorry. Am I really smacking my lips loud?
You're okay.
I am so sorry, but they are good. But one of the people asked me on one of the posts that we did on Facebook, how do we change this? And I laid out a very, very, very easy and attainable 4-step program on how to change it. And it's some people say, well, that's just too simple. It can't work. But it is. It is just that simple.
Well, I don't even know what it is, and I'm going to tell you it's too simple. So go ahead. Why don't you go ahead and explain it real quick?
No, it's not too simple. The first step is to become a student of the founding documents and the principles.
Okay. That sounds unattainable for a lot of people today, and I can tell you right now, it's not. It's not.
We live in the 21st century where information is at our fingertips.
And I don't even know if you necessarily need to know all the documentation. You need to know where those principles of those documentations are coming from.
Well,
the documentation is more of history, so you don't repeat it.
The problem is we have too many people go, yeah, I know the Constitution. Really?
Right. Right.
How many articles? Well, it's just like that. Remember when we were up in Monroe? In that nice state police, what was his name? I can't remember.
It don't matter.
Anyway, he pulled us over and we talked to him. A former military guy, Army guy. And so we got to talking, and we really enjoyed it. I think he was a really principled person, but even he had it wrong. He didn't understand it. And I asked him, did you take an oath? Yeah, I took an oath. Do you understand the Constitution? Oh, yeah, I know the Constitution. Okay, how many articles? I don't know. Okay, what's in the 5th article? I don't know. But I don't have to know all of the Constitution to uphold it. And I told him, yeah, you do.
Right.
If you're responsible for the content of that cabinet, and you have to, and you're responsible for the inventory of that content of that cabinet, if you don't know what's in it, how can you do your job? How can you be responsible for that inventory? You can't.
Right.
So,
and that goes along with anybody that takes the oath to that position.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, so that's every county commissioner. That's every the county clerk, treasurer.
Mm-hmm.
It goes to hundreds of positions. It goes to the fire department, don't it?
Well, it goes to anyone that takes an oath of office.
Yeah, which is going to be hundreds throughout the whole county. When you think
anybody that's taking municipal money,
50 to 100 people,
anybody that's taking anybody that's taking municipal money that's elected.
Yeah,
yeah, they're so anyway, but. So the first step is to become a student of the founding documents, not just, and I'm not saying you have to be a PhD in it, but you should be able to understand basic concepts like government by consent. We get so many people that go, well, we're a democracy because we vote.
Well, this is a prime example of what R.O.A.R said to Scipio Township.
Exactly.
Social, what did he say? A socialist
he said we're a social democracy.
Yeah, something like that.
He said he was glad that we were a social democracy because the people had to vote on that.
It was something.
Wow.
We're paraphrasing. We're not paraphrasing, but we're. I don't know if he said exactly that, but it was close enough to that.
Yeah, it was something along those lines.
It wasn't a republic. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it was far. Was far from him calling it a republic.
So Carl Albright's our undersheriff, right? Mm-hmm. So that means he's number 2.
But worse than that, even if he wasn't the undersheriff, he's been a cop how long?
Right, he's been an officer or deputy for
a
lieutenant or whatever. He's moved up the ranks.
I would expect someone of that caliber, someone that's willing to put their life on the line for their fellow man,
and he's big command staff for a while.
That's right.
Yeah,
should understand and know the Constitution. So not just know it, but the principles behind it.
And if you're command staff, what's that say about the deputies below him?
Everything comes from leadership, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was number 1.
Okay, so number 1 is become a student of the founding documents. Understand them, learn them. That doesn't mean you have to be a PhD, but there's plenty of places that you can learn them free. There's videos online. There's free classes at the Hillsdale Justice Project every Tuesday night. There's conversation with those people, with adults that are there. So there's lots of different ways to become a student of the Constitution. That's the first thing to do. Second, what's number 2? Number 2 is find other people of the same ilk. Other people that are students of the Constitution, right? Because birds of a feather flock together.
Okay.
Okay. Once you do that, within that group of people that understand the Constitution, and even if I don't agree with you 100% on your political ideology, I know that if you're a student of the Constitution and believe in the principles of the Constitution, we can't go too wrong.
That would be like us and Will Morrissey.
Yeah.
Dr.
Yeah.
Is he Dr. Will Morrissey?
Dr. Will.
I got
Dr. Morrissey.
Will yeah. So like we don't necessarily agree 100%.
No.
But he's a scholar of the Constitution.
Yeah, that's right. He's a scholar of the founding documents, and he loves.
And I'd buy him dinner.
Country.
I'd buy him dinner any day of the week.
Any day. So what you want to do is you want to birds of a feather flock together. So you want to find people of the same ilk. And you want to associate with them, get together, and out of that group, you want to find people and encourage people to run for local office within that group.
Hell, I mean, I think almost all of Hillsdale City Board is like that with us. I mean, I think Bill Zeiser would be in that nature. I think Matt Bell would be in there.
And Bill and I don't get along
right.
on a lot of different issues. But I believe that Bill understands the Constitution.
Adam Stockford, Mayor Stockford.
Yeah, I think they understand. It's more important to understand the principles. I love it when these people go, "Oh, I know the Constitution. You know, we're a great democracy." Whoop, red flags.
Right.
Obviously, you don't know the Constitution at that point.
Okay, so align our.
So number one,
getting
be
a
a
crew.
student. Be a student of the founding documents. Number two, find other people that are students of the founding documents and befriend them and hang out together because birds of a feather flock together. 3, encourage people within that group to run for local office.
Right. Okay.
And number 4, do whatever you can to get them elected. Now, if you follow those 4 easy steps, we will change this country back to a republic.
As we have seen changes even within our own Republican Party here in Hillsdale.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So we're expanding that. Now half of the room is probably aligned with us.
I think of the new members that are coming in. I think a lot of them are coming in because of the spirit of...
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say not necessarily with us, but with the Constitution.
That's right, because of the spirit of the founding documents, the principles of the founding documents. The Republican Party, and I hate to say this because I'm a Republican, but the Republican Party has lost their way for a lot of years. There's really no different. The tax and spend. They're really no different than the Democrats at this point.
I'm going to get
other
shot.
than they don't kill babies.
I'm going to get chastised for this, but Donald Trump is a Democrat.
Yes, he is.
His point of view is your modern.
No.
Our moderate Democrat.
Yes, it is. In fact, right now, what's going on in the Democratic Party, which is kind of odd. We saw this. We saw a shakeup in the Republican Party when the Tea Party came up.
This is actually something pretty dynamic that we're living in this time because we're seeing a major political shift
in both parties.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know where the Republican Party's going, but obviously the radical liberals have taken over the Democratic Party.
It's just like anything else. Nature. You throw a stone in a pond and you get some violent ripples, and sooner or later those go out and everything kind of calms down again. This is a self-evident truth. This is natural law.
Yeah, this has happened in the past. This happened in the past within the last 120 years.
But it's that cycle, just like what we were talking about, the cycles of liberty.
Yeah.
Everything happens in a cycle.
The founding fathers were classical liberals, weren't they, at one time? Was that what they were labeled at one time?
I don't know. Well... Yes, I guess probably. I never thought of it before until you just posed that question. But I guess in the day, I know they were radicals. I know they were. I know they were labeled radicals, but I think probably they had a liberal idea that hadn't been tried before.
We'll have to look into that. But regardless, what we're seeing is the radical liberals or radical Democrat side take over that party. Even your moderate Democrats can't believe what's going on in their own party.
Let's back up just a little bit in history. Let's go back to about 2000. Well, let's go back to about 1995. Okay, so if we go back to about 1995 in the Republican Party and see what happened. We had a group of very right wing, very conservative Tea Partiers come along.
Right. Your Ron Paul style.
Well,
Tea Party,
actually, even far to the right of Ron Paul. Ron Paul is a constitutionalist, but you had militant constitutionalists.
Sure.
And those militant constitutionalists. The problem was a lot of them didn't understand the Constitution.
I know.
A lot of them had this idea of
sovereign citizen.
Yeah, there you go, and that's where it went into. Well, sovereign citizen. That sovereign citizen idea comes from the Articles of Confederation. It doesn't come from the Constitution. And so when you get these people that start talking sovereign citizen, most times they're very radical, very militant constitutionalists. They're the same type of people that go, well, I get to carry a gun because I'm part of the militia. And that's what the Second Amendment's about. No, it's not. You're an idiot. The Second Amendment is all about the what we talk about, the separation and balance of power, in which it says the well-regulated militia being necessary for a free state, comma, that's one side of the teeter-totter. That's one side of the scale. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's the other side. So what it's saying is a well-regulated militia being trained being trained and armed and organized, being necessary for a free state. And remember, our founding fathers just got done fighting an organized militia.
Sure.
That was the state militia presented by the king to protect the colonies. Because remember, you had the French to worry about. The colonies had to worry about the French, and you had the French and the British until the French Indian War, when the French were really kind of sent running with their tails. The colonists had to worry. They had to kind of work with Britain a little bit because they needed protection, because they didn't have a well-regulated militia. The militia that they had was the well-regulated militia from Britain. And so we have to understand that. So that's kind of a dynamic that happened there. Once the French Indian War happened and the French were no longer in the picture, that's when the colonists started going, no, wait a minute, we want to renegotiate some things here.
Well, also there was a lot more new taxation that came across.
Exactly.
Right? So it was
because
it was just too much of a burden.
But the king did the same thing. The king went, okay, I don't have to worry about them siding with France now. So you know what? Give me all you. I'm going to tax you at 60%. You know.
Right.
And then he became a socialist. But anyway, so we go through these periods where this happens. So if we go back to 1995 and we look at this, we see these militant right.
Wasn't it?
No. About 1995. This is when we started seeing this change in the Republican Party. This is where the Tea Partiers started coming up.
Okay.
And don't get me wrong, I was a rah-rah Tea Party guy too, but I wasn't that militant constitutionalist.
But John,
into
even
the
militant, even if their political view of that is wrong, typically their principles are not. They're morally sound.
Well, their principles were more aligned with Judeo-Christian principles.
Right.
Let me say that, okay?
Yeah.
So even though they were extreme right-wing, they were had very much Judeo-Christian principles, very strong Judeo-Christian principles, very strong family principles.
Right.
Okay. So this is why I was a bit of a Tea Partier myself. I was all right with that. I still love the "Don't Tread on Me" flag. You know, I liked that. But we saw this.
I still like it.
Yeah, I do too.
I'm libertarian. I got a lot of libertarian.
Yeah, I do too. I've got a lot of libertarian views. But what we have to look at is 1995. We had this movement where the Tea Partiers were starting to come out, and we had a little bit of almost a militant constitutionalist flavor. And what happened was you had a fissure that happened within the Republican Party, and that's where the rhinos really shook out of the sift.
That was in the early 2000s, I thought.
Well, but it started about 1995.
Okay,
but the early 2000s when the
only reason why I know is because I think it was like early 2000s when I got into Alex Jones, and that's when I seen the shift. I seen it.
Right, so. but that you were starting to see the manifestation.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
What had started in 1995.
Yeah.
So you're starting to see this change that's happening. See, right now that's like what's going on in the Democratic Party. It didn't just start this year.
But
it didn't just start with Trump. It started during the middle of Obama's administration.
Yeah, I was going to say it started a little while back, yeah.
We're starting to see the manifestation of it now, but that's when it happened. It was like 2000 and 2012, 2013. That's when it really started to happen. But we're just seeing the manifestation of it now. What's going on right now is you had a lot of in the Republican Party when that shift happened.
Get back up on that mic, man. Why are you getting away from it?
Well, it's because
I can't keep adding. I can't move these levels on you.
The stool kept backing up on me. So anyway, yeah, it doesn't move on the floor very well.
You want me to get out the Sibian over there? What are you doing?
Stop it. So anyway, what happened was you always got to take everything to the gutter, and I got to clean it up.
Nobody knows what a Sibian is.
It doesn't matter. I do, and you took it to the gutter.
How do you know?
Oh gosh. Are we gonna talk?
Okay.
Are we gonna talk real stuff, or are we gonna just get stupid?
Okay. Good.
Okay. So anyway, what happened was during that shift in that Republican Party, you did have a schism that broke out, and now what happens is you've got these people that are, you had the people that were only Trump, and you got the other people that are never Trump, right?
Yeah, it's yes or no.
Yeah, so there was a fissure there. And I think what happened was during the Obama administration, when we were in the House and the Senate, there was some problems there just because we couldn't get together because of that whole Tea Party thing that happened, and we had that schism, and we had that far right that kind of fissured the party. Well, the Democrats are having the same thing happen right now. You've got R.O.A.R. Congresswoman from
AOC.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from Brooklyn. You've got
You get the handful of people up there.
Talib from Detroit area. You've got Kamala Harris.
And their voices are overbearing anybody that's in their party.
Well, what's going on is they've gone so extreme left. That was like that extreme right for us. That what's going on is a lot of the moderate Democrats are like, I don't even recognize my party anymore.
Right.
And they're going, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? There's been quite a few people from the Democratic Party that have kind of shifted back to the right.
I think a lot of them did.
Yeah, they shifted back to the Republicans just because they were like, oh my gosh, this is a train wreck, and I don't want to be on the train. And I feel bad for those people that were moderate Democrats. I mean,
and they would fit well in like Donald Trump's.
I'm telling
platform.
you what, if you took moderate Democrats and moderate Republicans, put them in a bag and shook them up,
you couldn't tell the difference.
Took the D and the R away from everybody.
Yeah, you wouldn't know the difference.
Everybody would be fine.
Yeah,
one or two issues they'd get all upset about, but other than that, they'd be fine on everything else.
Like Bush.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That he was he was moderate.
He could have flipped either way.
I would say
look at the Patriot Act.
I would say
he could have flipped anyway.
And I know Republicans hold strong to Bush Senior, but I would say he's the same too.
Well, yeah, the apple never falls far from the tree. Let's face facts.
If you want to, you have to go back to Reagan if you're going to do it. And I would say
Reagan was a Democrat.
Yeah, I would say he was leaning that way.
Well, Reagan was a Democrat, and when back in the 60s, when there was that fissure in the Democrat Party, and coming up into the 70s, that's where Reagan started going, okay, wait a minute, you guys are going away, you guys are going to the left of my principles farther, and that's when he became a Republican. Was he a far-right Republican? No, he wasn't. Was he a very strong leader? Yes. That's what marked his legacy, and that's what marked his presidency. He was a no-nonsense, cowboy hat wearing, I'm gonna tell it to you straight, and I'm gonna show you.
I mean, the negative things of like him or Nixon or any of the other guys. I mean, they're nothing compared to what's going on up in D.C. today.
No, nothing.
I mean, like nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, like even like that would be small potatoes compared to today.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like what's going on with?
Well, look what happened. Look what happened with Trump and the collusion delusion.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah. What was really happening was you had Obama and his whole administration that had tried to enact a coup against a duly elected president.
A political coup. Right?
Well, it doesn't matter. What Nixon did in spying on the Democrats at Watergate was nothing.
Yeah, this is standard. That's standard procedure
to what the
today.
Democrats did in Trump Tower on Trump.
Right. I mean,
the Republican Party.
That's standard procedure today.
No. It's still illegal no matter what. I don't care if you think it's standard procedure.
It's like stealing baseball signs from each other and teams.
No, it is illegal. This is why it was such a big. You're not old enough to remember it. I watched.
Right, I didn't
the
see
impeachment.
Yeah,
I watched all of that going on.
Yeah,
firsthand.
I mean, I saw Clinton, but I don't really understood. I didn't understand it.
See,
I was in 7th, 8th grade, 9th grade.
Yeah, it was when I watched it with Nixon. It was almost apocalyptic at that time for my family and myself to watch.
Was America at that time more patriotic?
Yes, it was. Well, think about it. We just the moon landing and all that, and
Vietnam.
I remember when
MLK, JFK wasn't that far from that.
Yeah, I mean I remember my brother was up for the lottery on the draft for Vietnam. That Vietnam was the first war that we watched on TV.
It wasn't fake cronyism patriotism.
No, it was
It wasn't
real patriotism.
It wasn't like let's get a magnet and put it on the
The
car.
only problem that we did have was we did have a lot of hippies then with the Vietnam War that were protesting. I remember my dad and my brother having a very heated discussion one day, and my brother was talking about some of his friends were going to leave for Canada. And I remember my dad telling him, I don't agree with this war, but when your country calls you, you go. Because if you run to Canada, you don't have a home to come back to.
Yeah, but after 10 of those fake wars, you think your dad would still have that same opinion?
Yes, my dad still had that opinion. And my thing, his
I don't want to say fake wars, but they're political bullshit wars.
Well, and Madison warned us about it, and so did. I mean, all of our founding fathers said, be careful. And we didn't. But you have to understand it was the progressivism, the imperialism that came in 1913 with Woodrow Wilson, this imperialism, this regime change, this take democracy places. That's really a progressive ideology. And what happened was Teddy Roosevelt during that period kind of pulled the Republicans into that
making it easy to go to war.
Well, pulled them into the... Okay, before Woodrow Wilson, we didn't think that people in Guam were so savage that they didn't know how to govern themselves, so we needed to go there, take their country over, and show them how to govern themselves and take democracy there, right? That was a first. And so this is how we ended up with Guam. And then you had Teddy Roosevelt and San Juan Hill.
As if we have democracy here.
Right, and that's the thing. I always said during the war with Iraq, I said, how in the heck are we taking democracy? How are we taking something somewhere that we never had and weren't supposed to have? Right? This idea of democracy, what were we doing? So it's an imperialistic idea, this imperialism, this you don't know, you're not smart enough to take care of yourself, so we're going to come in and, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Set your phasers to stun, right? This is what we do. But if we start looking at our founding documents, we're really violating our founding documents, right? The Declaration of Independence says that everyone has the right to choose their own government, right? Even Benjamin Franklin said that we'll suffer with evils as long as they're sufferable, rather than right ourselves in our situation.
And in America, it's not that suffering.
No, it's not. But the problem is, iron bars do not a prison make. We're on a plantation. It just doesn't look like the old plantation.
Right.
It's just a new, different type of plantation. So we are still making slaves today, and people. I just don't understand it.
It's never been easier in society where you don't have to work and somehow you still have a car or something. You still.
Well, here's the thing: you don't have to have critical thinking skills, and you still get to breathe, right? When my grandfather was young, if you didn't have critical thinking skills, life kind of killed you. It was called natural selection.
Yeah.
That gene didn't pass on.
You're propped up through friends, family, and the state in today's society.
And that's not the way it was intended to be.
I mean, I'm propped up in a lot of ways.
Right.
Almost like it's to the point where I'm becoming dependent on it. Like I almost can't help it.
But this is also a self-evident truth. This is also a natural thing, right? And people, I talk about this all the time. People get mad. I know. I understand. Here goes Rutan on his religious...
It has to be a state of mind.
Here goes Rutan on his religious rant again. But the fact of the matter is, the first gift God gave man was the gift of free will. And and Madison sort of talks about this in 51, man is constantly trying to take power and control over other men all the time, trying to take that gift that God gave man away from man, right? This gift of free will. We even do it in our churches. This is why if you go to a church, they make you sign this little thing that says you believe just like they do.
Yeah.
Right?
Can't wear a short skirt.
Well, but you have to believe exactly like I do.
That's what I'm saying.
Although they'll still preach that God wants to have a personal relationship with you, but
create all kinds of policies within their own department.
But yet we all have to be lockstep together, or you just don't fit in here, right? You need to find another church. Oh Lord, if I had a penny every time I heard that. But anyway,
right.
So what's going on is man's natural ability is to try to create dependence of other people, try to create dependence on other man. And here's why. Even Napoleon Bonaparte knew that power cannot be taken. It has to be given. That's just like if you say bad things to me and my feelings get hurt, it's because I've given you the power over my feelings.
Right.
If I don't care,
Right.
I haven't given my power up. I don't care. Say what you want. We've gotten into a society now where you got to protect me against the bad things he's saying because my feelings might get hurt.
Yeah.
Stop giving your power away. Stop giving your power up, right? This is where the problem comes in. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to create these dependents because dependence gives me power. It goes back to that old adage of if a man is hungry, don't feed, and you give him a fish,
Yeah, the
he'll
fish
be
one.
back every day.
Yeah.
But if you teach him to fish, he'll never be back because he doesn't need you anymore. Well, let's look at that just a little bit. If he's coming because he's hungry and you give him the fish, not only does he come back every day for the fish, but he's willing to lay his life down to protect you because you represent him eating and his family eating.
Yeah.
So without even asking him to do it, he will gladly give his life
Yeah.
in the defense of me. I didn't have to take that power from him. He gave that up willingly to me. If I teach him to fish, he doesn't have to protect me anymore. It doesn't matter.
Well, we're 30 minutes into that digress.
I'm sorry. It's not really a digress. I mean, this is part of the human condition.
It is. Going back to our local issue, so I put out that video. It got a tremendous amount of hits, got a tremendous amount of views. It's really quiet, but I mean, we're going into the holiday here, and
Well, but then again, realize what people say on that stuff is feedback to you.
yeah,
That doesn't mean that they're not watching it, looking at it, aghast. Some are probably looking at it and going, well, big deal. Some are looking at
I'm
it and
sure
going,
a
oh
lot
my
of them-
gosh, I'm scared to death.
yeah. We don't.
That never should
I
happen.
think we're getting a mixed bag of they don't know what to do.
Well, we always will, right? Because they're so used to being fed the fish every day, right? There we go. Hey, I tied it back in.
Well, you know, I wanted to explain to the viewer what I saw. Okay, so like,
yeah, that's probably fair.
you know, because you only get tidbits. I just put out the files today. So I got the police files, I got the complaint files, and
Something very interesting in that. A lot of people don't want to take the time to read it, but you really, really, really have to read it along with watching that video. Because if you do, you have a better idea of being able to make your own opinion of what's going on.
It's actually better to read the officer's paperwork first.
Yes.
Their file first, and then their complaint, and then you read Shannon's complaint,
Mm-hmm.
and then watch the video.
Yeah.
And you're going to be blown away by this. Now,
Yeah.
we all subconsciously know that people get tied into the system sometimes by mistake. We all know this.
Sure.
There's errors, there's mistakes, things happen. You
Nothing's
know,
100%.
good cops make poor judgment at times or
They're
make a
human
mistake.
beings.
Yeah, they're human beings.
Yeah,
Yeah, except the guy that shot that kid with a taser off the four-wheeler. Jesus.
Well, that's not a good human being, but it's still a human being.
I mean, like, but I'm just saying, like, we know stuff happens. But that doesn't mean that you can't call them out on it, though. You know, if I make a mistake working at my job and I cost that community, say if I cost that job, the owner $5,000, I'm going to be fired. You know, it just depends on what are we talking about? What is considered, enough to where you got to call them out on it?
But remember how we said the system's broken?
Yeah.
Part of that is, if I make a mistake, I should be able to be man enough to say I made a mistake.
But
and I should be able to be humble enough to say I'm
insurance
sorry.
and liability has destroyed
Insurance, liability, and lawyers have destroyed that. A person cannot do that anymore, or sometimes, and I'm going to say this, it's a culture within our departments to not do that because we see that as a weakness.
Yeah.
You can't be weak. You got to be one of the strong. Let me tell you, some of the biggest, strongest heroes in this world are the ones that have chutzpah and dignity enough to
humble
admit when they've done
being
something.
humble.
That's right.
I mean, like, give me a break.
To be able to admit when they've done something wrong, to
Okay.
say I'm sorry and to try to fix it.
All right, so this is. I guess I'll just explain it.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I'll explain what happened and then how I got involved and what I saw. How about that?
That works.
Is that fair? Okay, so it just so happens that there's Shannon, there's Shannon's father, and then there's Shannon's brother. This happened over a weekend where this incident went down. Now, Shannon's brother had a warrant for child support. But he went to the court date on Friday to have that warrant rescinded, which they did rescind it, so he left the court. Well, the court...
There's one important thing to note
Okay.
here. The father and Shannon's brother have the same name.
Yes.
One is a
junior.
one is so and so 1, and the other one is so and so 2.
Right. So
That's important to note.
Okay, so the court doesn't
Because
rescind...
with that, I know why the cops made the mistake they made, and it was a human error.
Yeah, well, the court on Friday evening did not finish their paperwork in time, and
No, and even the sheriff had admitted that that's a huge problem that happens over and
this
over.
is a common mistake. So the court didn't finish their job at the end of the day on Friday. Now I can't chastise them or anything. I don't know what goes on.
They're human too,
right? I don't know what goes on in the courthouse. That's a lot of that's secret. So, but the paperwork didn't.
the right clearance.
The paperwork didn't get filed, so the warrant went out through the weekend. Shannon's brother, so he has the open warrant through the weekend. Now, the sheriff deputies...
Which is a bogus warrant because he took care of
Yeah,
it.
it's a bogus warrant. So, Hillsdale County Sheriff Department sees the junior's car driving along, and they pull him over expecting to get Junior. Well, here it was Senior driving Junior's car.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Junior doesn't live with Senior, and Junior doesn't live with Shannon. But the dad lives with Shannon. And they live over in North Adams area, and they're not well-to-do people. They live off what they can live off of, and so they don't have a whole lot of money to fight the system when something happens. And so the cops pulled Senior over in Junior's car, thinking it was Junior. They asked Senior, "Hey, where is Junior at?" And he goes, "I think he's over at Shannon's."
Okay, stop right there.
Go
Just
ahead.
1 second. There's a couple details here that are important to note, and they're important to note because of Brown v. Texas and Terry v. Ohio. One of the things is when they pulled Senior over.
Hey, we'll continue doing like this. You break it down like
Okay.
I like how we're doing this.
When they pulled Senior over, and when they pulled the car over expecting to find Junior, but Senior was in the car, they never articulated to Senior that Junior had a warrant.
Okay.
They just wanted to know where Junior was.
Right.
Senior said, "I don't know. He's probably home." They asked Senior where he was going, and he said, "I'm going to my son's house." Now, the problem is, if you're looking for somebody and you say son's house, they're thinking Junior. Dad wasn't going to Junior's house.
Okay.
Dad was going to Shannon's house.
That's how the error got. Okay,
That's
I can
right.
see how
so
that
when
mixed
they
up.
they asked him, "What's that address that you're going to?" He told them. The police officer told Senior, "Wait right here. Don't pull out until we do, for safety reasons."
Yeah, they tried to beat him back to the house.
Well, what it was is they were trying to beat him to the house because they didn't want Senior to get there and warn Junior
Right.
that they're coming for the warrant. Now, I have to say that's a legitimate place for a police officer's mind to go. I
Right.
understand that. Okay,
Right.
now
Well,
take it from there.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is Shannon's address on his mailbox isn't correct, and so
That is another wrinkle.
Yeah.
in this.
So the sheriff goes to the wrong house. The deputies go to the wrong house.
The neighbor.
They go to the neighbor's house, and then so Dad makes it home first. Now it's just Shannon and Dad, and the cops pull up behind Dad, obviously
Because they saw Dad pull in
they seen
to
the dad.
that address
That's
from the
right.
neighbors.
Yeah.
So they came up behind it and
Right,
locked him in.
right. So they're standing outside. Shannon looks out the window and sees that there's police officers in the driveway. Now, he has no idea what's going on.
He sees them talking to his dad.
So he walks out in a hoodie, and we all know hoodies are a bad thing to wear around police officers.
It's October. Wait a minute. Now, let's preface this. This is October.
Yeah, it's mid-October.
It's chilly.
Right. So he comes out with his hands in his pocket. Instantly, it was
Because the other thing is, Shannon's not a very big guy. He's
he's like 140 pounds wet.
So he's gonna he's gonna have his hands in his pocket because it's chilly out.
It was Deputy Bednar. Is that how you say it?
Bednar. Yeah.
I think it's Eric. Is it Eric Bednar?
I can't remember his first name, but it is.
Okay.
I think his first name's Officer Bednar.
Yeah, or Deputy, isn't it?
Well, yeah, deputy.
Okay, so Shannon walks up with his hands in his hoodie, and and this is what Shannon's telling me, at least. And Shannon tells me that
by the police report, it corroborates it as well.
Yes, but the deputy was screaming at him to get his hands out of his pockets. So he was already scared that Shannon.
Well, let's just one more other detail
go ahead.
here. When officers can't see your hands, the first thing they do is reach for their weapon to make sure that if they have to have it, that they've got a good solid grip on it.
Right.
So he reached for his weapon and grabbed it, and then ordered very loudly for Shannon to get his hands out of his pockets and to show his hands.
Now, Shannon was already, at that moment, it escalated the feelings or the emotions.
Well, Shannon had absolutely no forethought that anything like that was going to go on. He just thought it was.
Yeah, he's an innocent bystander here.
Yeah, he just thinks, and he doesn't know that Dad's been stopped earlier.
Right.
And so he just kind of happenstance falls into this situation. Okay.
Yeah, and then so they ask Dad, "Is this Junior?" And Shannon and Dad are both, "No, this isn't." Obvious.
Yeah.
And the deputies believed Senior enough to come over there when they don't have a warrant or anything. They just
Sure.
They believed him enough to come over to the house.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they didn't believe him on the spot there.
Now, here's the other thing we have to understand. Still, at this point in time, neither one of the officers have articulated to either one of the parties that
Right.
Junior has an active warrant.
And I guess we should say who the other deputy is. It Marlette?
Marlette.
Am I saying that
Is it
right?
Marlette?
But
I'd have to look. At the
We're pretty
paperwork again.
close.
I think it's Marlette.
And there's also a third person in a car.
Or is it Marriott?
That's removed from the report. There was like either a ride along or something of that nature, but that's actually removed from the report. We never did get their statement, the third person. But the emotions got escalated between Shannon and the deputy for whatever reason. Now this is the area that could be shade of gray, is what was exchanged with words, because it's not written in either report really, but it started getting heated. Well, Shannon has a medical condition where if he gets stressed out, he gets vertigo. He gets very dizzy.
Yeah, vertigo. And what happens with vertigo too is you get a change in blood pressure, you get a change in heart rate.
Yep.
And you get very dizzy.
You get very dizzy. You get very hot.
You get weak in the knees. Your legs start to feel like noodles.
And on top of it, Shannon, in my opinion, he suffers from some sort of like condition of is it not being scared?
Officer Marlette.
What Marlette? What is it when you're like? I want to say the word scared. I don't want to use that word scared. Where you're always intimidated by life.
He has a very nervous.
Yeah, he's always
very paranoid.
Paranoid. Yeah, he's very paranoid.
Well,
I don't even know if that's the word, but
slight paranoia.
Okay.
But I think it comes from, it just comes from his experience in life.
Or it could be a psychosis.
But I think it comes from his experience.
I don't know.
I've met too many people like Shannon.
But he doesn't have any record.
No,
so I don't know.
He's a good kid.
Yeah, he's
been a good kid.
But regardless, so the situation conversation between
he couldn't have a CPL if he wasn't a good kid, right? He has a CPL, so he's got a good background check.
Sure.
So there you go.
The communication between the deputy and Shannon escalated. Well, Shannon felt that it was best just to step away because
he physically had to.
Right. So he walked to his porch that's attached to his house, got up on the porch. Well, as he's walking to the porch, this is the statement from Dad, is that the deputy tried sweeping Shannon from behind, and he missed. Shannon didn't know he was trying to sweep him, but he was telling Shannon to stop. And on the second command to stop, he yelled it. Shannon turned around, and the cop was in his face, literally, like right up in his face. So Shannon put his hands up to his chest
out of reflex.
And that's when the officer, or when the deputy grabbed him, and I don't know if he
swept his legs and
swept his leg and then put his knee in his back.
Rode him to the ground.
Yeah, rode him to the ground, put his knee in the back. Well, when you hit the ground and it takes the breath out of you, what's the first thing you do? Is you grab your chest.
Not only that, when you're in pain, how many people, when something hits you and it hurts, do you stick your arm into it farther? Right.
Right.
You don't. Yeah. Reflexes, you pull away. That's why they test for reflexes, right?
Right. So Shannon instantly grabbed for his chest. Now this is where the charge comes in. They're saying he's resisting arrest because his arms were under his body.
Let's stop right there.
Yep. Go ahead. Break that down.
Let's break that down. That part through there. Okay. Now, At that point in time, Shannon's on his property.
Oh, wait, we told. Yeah, Shannon told him to leave.
Yeah.
Actually, right before
Shannon's
he walked away. That's
on
right.
his own property, and he has informed the officer after the officer told him to get his hands out of his pockets and asked him if he had ID. Shannon realized that he didn't have ID because he's in his yard.
Right. Yeah.
Shannon then also realized that he doesn't have to have ID because he's in his yard, right?
Yeah, he doesn't have anything going on.
He doesn't have to have ID. Now, at this point in time, the officer has not articulated
that's where
either one.
And that's where it got escalated up.
That there is a warrant involved, right? This has not been articulated. This is necessary. You have to have articulable probable cause. Okay, so at that point in time, the officer did not articulate any probable cause. So what we have to look at is he detained or under arrest, or is he free to go? This is what we have to look at. These are the three options he has. Is he detained? Is he under arrest, or is he free to go? If the officer has articulable probable cause, he can detain him. And if he detains him, he can ask him for ID if he has articulable probable cause.
Which he didn't have.
He did, but he didn't articulate it. If he would have said just simply, who are you? Do you have any ID? And here's why. Because I'm looking for so-and-so, Handy the second, and there's a warrant out for him. Are you him? And if Shannon would have said, no, I'm Shannon, and Dad said, I'm Shannon, then the officer could have said, well, I would like to see some ID, so can we go to the house where you can get your ID? At that point in time, Shannon has an obligation because the officer gave him articulable probable cause.
If it was like that, he probably would have did that.
Absolutely. See, this is the whole reason why you have to have articulable probable cause.
Well, a lot of it was contempt of cop.
I know,
right?
And if you get rid of that mentality and start working with the law instead of trying to figure out how to get around the law,
bend it.
That's right. Then things go better for everyone.
But Shannon also told him to leave, and that he was trespassing.
But the thing is, the officer knows something that Shannon doesn't. The officer knows that he's got a warrant for somebody. So the officer, at that point in time, feels that he's got the right to be on that property. Had he articulated that to Shannon, Shannon would have agreed with him. That he had the ability to be there,
or potentially
to find out who he is.
We won't know.
Well,
right?
The thing is, at that point in time, then Shannon would have been guilty at that point in time of obstructing an officer if he didn't want to give him his ID or anything. Because at that point in time, he would have been legally detained. Legally detained. So this whole idea of, well, we have to decide, where you can walk away and where you can't walk away.
Wait, hold on, John. Let's wait till we get to that point.
I won't get there, but I'm prefacing that.
Yeah.
And that's why. Because we have to understand Brown v. Texas and Terry v. Ohio. There was no articulable probable cause to detain him. Had the officer given him articulable probable cause, he could have detained him. Now, the other thing is, in the two police reports at that particular time, Officer Bednar says that Shannon Handy backed away from him all the way to the porch.
Yeah.
Officer Marilot says that he turned and walked to the porch and then turned back. Now, when they took him to the ground, the reason why they took him to the ground is a valid reason, except for I don't believe it, and here's why. The reason they took him to the ground was they said, number one, Officer Bednar said that he was backing away from him, and he saw him then
reaching in his jacket.
When he got to the porch, he turned and reached for his belt line.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I was Officer Bednar at that point in time, I would have been concerned as well. There isn't an officer in this world that wouldn't have been concerned with that. Nobody faults him for that.
Right.
However, this is where I don't trust.
Well, Marilot said.
But here's where I don't trust it, because when that happened, Marilot says, we saw him reach for. Okay, now wait a minute.
No, reach for he was his jacket. I thought
but
she said.
But it doesn't matter. How can one say, I saw him reach, and the other one said, we saw him reach, if they hadn't talked about what the report was going to say?
Of course.
I'm sorry. That's just one of the things you look for. And when they use the term of, we saw him reach for his, John, how can I know what you see? Right? I don't know what you see. And if I'm writing a report, I have to write what I saw, not what we saw. Because I don't know what we saw. I only know what I saw. Right? That's part of technical writing.
See, he was reaching around the front, which would okay. So Marilette said he was reaching around the front, and that would correlate with what Shannon said.
Back was to the officers.
Well, Shannon said he was unzipping his jacket.
Yeah, because his back was to the officers, right? But if you read Bednar's report, Bednar says that he backed all the way to the porch, then turned around and reached for
that particular statement. He's the one that's the odd one out.
Yeah, but the thing is that if you're a trained observer, can you not get exactly which way someone was standing and walking away, backing up, or walking way forward? This is a critical,
grabbing for a belt line or grabbing for your zipper.
This is a critical problem right here, right? Internal Affairs needs to look at that because that's a critical issue.
And this is the crutch of what went on right here. Crux. Yeah, this is right here is what it is because this is the charge.
That's right. This is it.
So they,
this is all important. Every detail here.
When Shannon went to the ground, the deputy put his knee in his back. Now we all know,
which is standard practice.
But it's also standard practice to do the stop resisting.
Sure, that happened right after Rodney King.
Yeah. So instantly Shannon's resisting somehow. They put him in the car and they arrest him, and they charge him. Well, they go to the father and say, "Hey, can we search the house?"
One more detail.
Yep.
Once they take Shannon into custody, and they put the cuffs on him, Shannon still at that point in time was saying, "Look, I didn't do anything wrong. I don't know what you're doing. You're trespassing." The officer took him and Shannon said, "Can I sit on the hood of this, on the front of this green car?" Because he said, "Look, I got to catch my breath and everything. He's got this condition." The officer said yes. As soon as he sat there, he said, "Look, you're trespassing."
Yeah.
They swept him to the car and put him in the car.
No, he said. Oh, before they did that, he said that I don't want you searching my house.
That's right, and he told him not there. Okay, now here's the other thing: they still have not articulated probable cause. They still have not told them that his brother and that the father's son had a warrant for failure to pay child support, an FOC warrant. Okay, now. In the future, we know that warrant was a bogus warrant. Now, this is where the good faith in Kimm's speech on her thing, this is where she says, well, officer has good faith. They did have good faith at that point in time.
Of course, yeah.
Any officer would believe that they had good faith. The problem that the officer didn't do is he did not articulate that to the subjects.
Neither of them. Neither deputies.
Had he done that, or had either deputy done that, I think we would have seen a completely different scenario.
I bet it would have went real smooth for them.
Way different. Yeah,
for everybody involved.
Shannon didn't want all that trouble, and the officers didn't want that trouble. I'm sure of it. No officer wants to wrestle with someone because there's always the potential you're going to get hurt. You rip a knee up, it's still not the same. Nobody wants to get hurt.
So they arrest him. They go to court. Well, first off, he's charged with a felony.
Wait a minute, let's finish the story.
Well, go ahead.
They arrest him and put him in the car, and then they go to the house.
Oh, yeah, they go to the house.
Walk through the house.
Yep.
Now, the problem with that is he's got a 15-year-old daughter there, and now Shannon, who owns the house, said, I don't want you in there. I know what the officers are going to try to do. They're going to try to say, well, your dad said we could go in there, and he lives here. Doesn't matter. He isn't the owner. If the owner tells you no, before someone else says, yeah, I guess you can, the answer is still no. And so they went in anyway. Now, at that point in time, I don't know whether they told anybody that they had a warrant or what. But still, it was an arrest warrant, not a search warrant.
Right.
Two completely different pieces of paper.
Yeah, so they didn't have no search warrant to go into the home.
Zero.
Right. So he goes to court. He goes for his arraignment. That was at district. What is that, John?
Yeah,
how's that set
court.
up?
District
no. That was it's because they don't know if it's going to get sent up to district. So
no.
Is that
district is where Sarah Lisney is in the annex. Okay, that's where he's arraigned. What they were going to do on the pretrial was, if it was bound over, it would be bound over to circuit court.
Oh, circuit court. Okay,
for a felony.
Okay, that's what I'm. Yeah, okay. So he goes to district court, goes for arraignment. He gets a $5,000 PR bond. He's charged with a felony, but he gets a $5,000 PR bond. I bet a lot of guys that get charged with misdemeanors and felonies in our county would like to have those $5,000 PR bonds.
Yeah, instead of shoving them all in the jail and overcrowding the jail.
So
But anyway.
obviously they knew at that point that he wasn't much of a threat. If you give him on a get out of jail free
If you
card.
meet this guy, it's almost it would be almost impossible to get him mad.
But
and he's just a
if
calm,
you read
nice
the
guy.
police report, which is literally 2 paragraphs, I don't even see how they would even how they could move this forward. But
Yeah,
so
not ethically, not morally.
that's what I'm saying. So at that point, Kimm was telling Shannon that he needs to plead this down. And he was like, well, I didn't do anything wrong. I don't want to plead this down. But she was convincing him that morning that he should plead it down. So that's when, following a couple days or going a couple days past that, he was trying to call her and she doesn't communicate with him. Now, it's not necessarily Kimm. That what it is pre-appointed attorneys, and I've had plenty of
Court
them.
appointed.
Or
Pre-appointed.
God, why do I keep
I
doing
don't
it
know
now?
why you do that.
Ugh. So court-appointed attorneys, and they're all guilty of this, at least from my experience.
And it's not just them; it's the system
You're
that
right.
has forced.
You
this.
can't communicate with your court-appointed attorney except on the days of court, because they're not getting paid very much to do your case.
And they're so stinking busy with
And
all
they're
their
swamped.
dockets. It's not even.
They're
funny.
swamped, and there's
And
no
let's
real
be-
incentive for you to for them to take your call.
And let's be fair. This whole thing is it's what we've always done. It's almost like a choreographed dance.
Yeah, it's designed
Everybody
this way.
does
That's
exactly the same thing
Yeah.
all the time.
Let's take a
if
plea.
you have any situation that's outside the norm, everybody goes into vapor lock. They don't know what to do because, well, we've never done that before.
Yeah.
Now, they're all professionals and should know how to do it, but all of a sudden everybody freezes because it's not in the script.
You're right. So that's why I'm taking it to trial every time. Give me a jury every time.
You know what? I want to be judged by a jury of my peers.
Yeah. So at that point, a few days later, he's trying to call her and trying to figure out a situation. She doesn't answer the phone calls. So that's when he came and seen you, John, over at HJP. And you called me about it. You told me about it, and you knew that I have a criminal background situation. Like I've been in trouble with the law. So you asked me if I wanted to take it because you were kind of busy. And
Well, the other thing is, one of the things we do at the HJP is a lot of people are afraid of the unknown because they just don't understand. And let's face facts. These court-appointed attorneys don't have the time to answer their questions. They don't have the time. When they go, okay, well, what step happens next? What, how does this, what are the steps?
And Shannon's my age.
Yeah.
And so you figured it might work out just fine. And I'm sort of aggressive, but I'm also
You're a realist.
I'm a realist, but I also try to pick people up a little bit. So Shannon being kind of he's kind of negative a lot.
Well, he's depressed with this thing that's going on. He knows he doesn't have the money to fight it. He's got a court-appointed attorney. He's scared of the unknown. He doesn't know what's going to happen.
And I get real personal with them, or I can chum up with them. So you had me
You have a way to kind of calm people down a little bit.
So I go, you got to take it for a grain of salt too when people talk to you and communicate with you. Like a lot of times when people come to us, they're actually guilty and they're just trying to find a way to get out of it.
Right. And let me say something at that point. And this is where the HJP has gotten a huge battering within the community. There's people out there that are spreading this stuff, this idea that the HJP is there trying to get guilty people off. That's not true.
Right.
We believe in justice, and that means that the time needs to match the crime. If it's a little crime, it's a little time. If it's a big crime, it's big time.
Right.
If it's no crime, it should be no time. So what we do is we believe in justice. If you are guilty of something, well, then you need to face the music. But if we don't think that you should spend a year in jail if it only calls for 5 days.
Yeah, if you stole a pack of gum at Walmart.
Yeah, or you pay restitution, you get it done. I've seen these things where people are on probation for 3 years, and the probation is so bad, the Pope couldn't.
Yeah, well, I mean,
couldn't.
You get an FOC like I think they changed the felony for that. I think when mine was, I was 36,000 behind when I got charged with mine. So you got to figure. I think today it's like 4,000 or something like that.
Yeah, it's not much.
It's not much to be a felon, and then you get 5 years probation of something like that.
Well, not only that, then as many people as we can put the scarlet letter F on their forehead, we can take them out of the take them out of the work rolls.
Yeah,
we can put mom and baby on welfare because of that.
Court fines. fines on top of it.
We know that they're never going to get out of it.
Now,
this is the way that we take the fathers out of the homes.
And now that I'm in the system, that makes more money for everybody that works within the system because they're taking state money for that.
That's right.
It's just a nightmare.
And here's the thing: it's not that these people are bad. It's just self-evident truth.
Yeah, but the people like me got to walk around with the mark of Cain on us forever.
That's right.
You know,
or gun rights get chilled and everything.
And it's not just the mark of Cain in a sense of gun rights would be one, but I mean like the stigma. Like
you're not going to get a good job.
I'm a bad father.
You're not going to get a good job, right? You always have to answer. Do you have a felony? Yes. You got to go through that at every job.
Interview. If you got to keep your job after your felony.
That's right. And that's the other thing I never understood. Okay, so you're behind on your child support. Let's take his job away from him and throw him in jail. That's gonna.
If you have an apartment, you lose that. You lose all your stuff.
But my thing is, if you're taking the guy out of a job and putting him in jail because he's behind,
debtor nation.
He's gonna go farther behind. He's not gonna get caught up.
Okay, so
worse for the children.
I talked to Shannon over the phone. I told him, let me go get the police report. I got the police report, and I was just blown away by the police report, John, because everything that Shannon said
was exactly by the police report.
I couldn't believe it because usually I was expecting either one or two things: Shannon's lying or the police are lying, right?
But they're all telling the same story.
For the most part, it was like 90% spot on. I was like, "Wow, this really
doesn't happen very often."
Yeah, so I was kind of like, "Well, I have to take it." So I went out to Shannon, met Shannon and his father, and I recorded that conversation that I was there with him.
Record everything all the time.
Yeah. Well, you have to
in today's world. Mm-hmm.
Well, it back a long time ago, that if they could, they probably would have too.
Yeah, that's true.
But. Yeah, so I meet him, and then I did something that was very unusual, something that you don't do, generally speaking, when you have a court case, because I know Kimm wasn't going to communicate with us. Mm-mm. I already knew that. But the first thing we need to do is get the evidence that they had against him, right? So I took him over to Neil Brady's place, something that you typically don't do when you take the person over there.
Yeah, a defense lawyer does not want their
but I knew Shannon. At this point, I knew Shannon was innocent, right? So I just
still it's dangerous because even innocent people. I mean, the Fifth Amendment's there for innocent people.
I mean, I took him into the shark waters.
Yeah,
right. So I took him over to the Brady's office. Brady wasn't in, but his assistant was, and his assistant was a little snarky. She wasn't too bad, but she was a little snarky. And all I was asking for was the evidence that was against Shannon. So she comes out, she's like, it would be like $1 or whatever, and I'm thinking, okay, what? It was the police report. Well, I already had the police report.
I already have it.
I'm like, there's nothing else. She's like, no, this is our evidence against him. And I'm like, get the hell out of here. There's no way that this piece of paper right here is good.
I would have looked at her and said, "Did you read this?"
I could potentially charge someone with a felony with the $5,000 PR.
Lock them up in a cage with what's on that paper.
And how much money did this cost? I mean, at what expense did we do here? So I couldn't believe it. So the next step we did was we went over to Kimm Burger's office. Now, she has her own independent office. So we walked in there, and she had her assistant. And Kimm wasn't in. Obviously, Kimm's probably tied down with some other cases or some. She's probably got hundreds of cases. But her assistant was real poopy with us.
Even more snarky.
Yes, snarky. So I
snarky city.
At that point, I was already past the limit with that. So I took it back at her. But we left there. And then I took him over. I'm thinking to myself, you know what? We're going to the sheriff directly because I want to hear what the sheriff has to say about this. Yeah. This is just ludicrous that we're doing this. So
we're even pushing it.
Now you don't. Anything you say will be used against you in court of law.
Yeah, not can be, but will be.
Yeah. So we get to the sheriff department, and Tim is very pleasant at letting us in and talking with us. I got to give him props for that. That he was willing to hear us. So we get into his office, we sit down, Under Sheriff Albright sits behind us, and Under Sheriff Albright was very pleasant as well. Now, Tim and I both agreed that we wouldn't take notes and that we wouldn't record. I wish I would have recorded. I'm not going to lie. I wish I would have recorded because some of the things that Sheriff Parker said,
and in the context and how he said it,
would shine more light on this case
and would alarm some.
Yeah, and it would alarm some people. So at one point, Sheriff Parker was getting a little stern with Shannon, and Shannon was like really shaking, and I was like, Tim, don't you see that he's scared?
Well, he's turning the intimidation up, but that's what he's learned to do over 31 years.
I'm like, can't you tell that he's scared? And he's like, I don't think he's scared. I'm like, Tim. And Shannon's like, no, I'm totally freaked out.
Yeah.
Because Shannon's totally freaked out about retaliation. He's going back to that paranoia state.
Well, yeah, here's the thing. When you don't have much money, and all it takes is one person falsely accusing you of something to destroy your entire life, and you're the only person there for a child.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, that's a lot. That's pressure. That's stuff that keeps you awake at night.
Well, you got the barrel of the gun on your.
Yes, that's what keeps you awake at night. And these people that are in positions of power don't understand just how.
If you're
horrible
innocent,
that
you
feels.
shouldn't worry.
Yeah, that's a bunch of crap. I'm so sick and tired of hearing that.
So we gave the police report to Sheriff Parker, and he briefly read it over, and he was very thorough. He looked up at it. He goes, "Yep, this is shit. This is shit." And he agreed that the report was limited, didn't have much information. He believed it was a bad report, and
it probably didn't rise to the level of an arrest.
Well, it probably does arise to a level of arrest, but he's not going to take that step.
Yeah. I'm just saying he knows that.
Well, I asked him if he would resend the complaint, and he said he couldn't. And I asked why, and Under Sheriff Albright interjected at this point and said that, well, it could be, there might be some ethics or conflict of interest, because what if it was a family member?
But it's not.
But I didn't say that right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to play.
I love it when they always do the what if.
Yeah, well, I'm playing.
Let's do the hypothetical all day. How about if we deal with the real facts?
I wish I was more of an expert at this and more quick-witted, or I would have said that. I didn't say that. I'm trying to be diplomatic with 3 or 4 people in the room and playing middleman. I'm playing the middle ground. No, I'm not playing victim here.
No, I know it's tough.
It's an awkward situation.
You're trying to be the mediator.
I'm in the den of the wolves here, trying to keep all the wolves nice. And
you got milk bone underwear on.
I'm trying to protect the lamb here. I'm trying to protect this lamb here.
You're in the dog pound with meat.
I feel like I'm a shepherd, and I got all the wolves surrounding my lamb. That's what I feel like.
Yeah.
So I wasn't quick-witted to say it wasn't a family member. Now, something that was pretty alarming that Sheriff Parker said was, and he didn't say, I'm going to paraphrase it, or I can't remember what the quote that he said, was if Shannon was to escalate this to a lawsuit, that he wouldn't do nothing about it. Now, that's something that was really hard on me. That's something that I will never forget him saying, because it shows me the kind of character or the kind of person that he really is if his deputy is in the wrong, then he needs to accept responsibility for his deputy.
Actually, the Constitution in Section 51, I think it's 51.75 or it might be 77, 51.77, somewhere right around that area, basically says the sheriff is responsible for all of his deputies. Well, if a deputy can be sued, the sheriff can be sued in the same capacity because he's the sheriff.
Well, I've heard my township supervisor, Scott Burns, say that if they did something wrong, they would just admit the responsibility. That felt great in my heart when he said that, because that's
and
what
that goes a long way with people.
That's what a real person would do.
That goes a long way with people.
That's morally sound. Right. So when Tim said
Principled.
and he was doing it in a roundabout way, saying that, and that too made it more awkward.
Now, if I can, let me defend one thing that Tim did say is correct. Tim said he couldn't pull it.
Okay. And
he couldn't because it's already gone to the prosecuting attorney. Okay. Here's what Tim was being disingenuous about.
And Kim did say that too as well.
And this is what both of them are being disingenuous about. Do you know why we have a chain of command within the sheriff's department? A quasi-military, paramilitary organization.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
The reason why is because the officer on the street writes a report or a ticket or an arrest. It has to go to a sergeant to be reviewed. That sergeant is supposed to have more training, more knowledge. After it goes to the sergeant to be reviewed, usually the sergeant puts together his recommendations, and those all go to the lieutenant. The lieutenant then looks at it final, and at that point in time, either the sheriff can delegate that the lieutenant has the final say and go
if the sheriff sees it,
or the sheriff can say, you know what, I want to see those before they go to the prosecuting attorney. At that point in time, everything can be pulled before it goes to the prosecuting attorney.
I in my personal belief, I don't think Sheriff Parker seen it beforehand.
I don't think he did either. But the problem is, if he gave his authority and delegated his authority down to someone else to do it, then shame on him because he's got the wrong person looking at reports again. As well, right?
Okay.
So the blue line of silence crap's got to go away. It's got to stop. That's the whole reason why we elect a sheriff, because that sheriff is supposed to be someone from the community that is fair, that we have faith in being fair, so that these things don't happen. Because officers are doing a hard job. Officers have to pay attention to what they're doing. That means they're going to make human mistakes. That's what that elected sheriff is for, is to be that stopgap in between there, is to stop that from happening.
Right.
But the problem is when he's part of the same fraternal order, it becomes very difficult.
Well, we left the sheriff's office on a high note, honestly, because Sheriff Tim Parker and Under Sheriff Carl Albright appeared to be on the same page with us. Genuine, yeah. And I'm not saying they're not now.
No.
I'm just saying that
that was your take upon leaving the sheriff's department.
Now, Sheriff, and before we left, Sheriff Parker did say, Shannon, if they drop the charge, or if you're found guilty, or if you plead down, it don't matter, whatever the situation is, come back here with the complaint form by you, and I will investigate this. Also, he said that if you feel that you're being retaliated against, let me know right away, because that's not going to happen.
And kudos to the sheriff for that.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Big kudos to him for
I
that.
genuinely believe him.
Yes, I believe. I don't think. Here's the thing. I said this when I was running against him. There isn't anybody that's 100% evil. There isn't anybody that's 100% good. And a lot of people do things with the best of intentions.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not going to put horns in a tail on him.
Right, exactly. I'm not trying to do that either.
I'm not going to do that. I'm going to call a spade when I see a spade.
Yeah, we're going to find out where the faults are and then go from there.
That's right.
That's all we can do.
And here's the thing. This isn't about anybody personally. This is about the system, and this is about a situation. People can, even the best athlete has one bad day. And they don't want to be traded or graded on that one bad day.
The only problem is the reason why it's tough to compare this to any other job or any other career or anything else is because people's lives are on the line and credibility of that system's on the line.
And not only that, in other jobs, there's usually
their life's on the line.
Well,
literally.
In other situations, in other jobs, when you make a mistake, usually you end up somehow paying for it. But we've become very scary, and I'm just talking generally.
You could destroy someone's life.
Well,
off of a small error.
Yeah, and I'm talking just general in our nation right now. We've got situations where we've got officers. Now, don't get me wrong. By and large, 99% of the officers are great people.
Morally sound.
Morally sound, good people.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that even the morally sound good officers don't make mistakes every now and then. That doesn't make them horrible. That makes them human.
Right.
That's all it does. It makes them human. The problem is the system's broken when they can't have the principles or the morals to say, I was wrong and I'm sorry. But the other problem is this. How many good officers have ever arrested bad officers when they're doing what they're doing?
Right.
Very few.
Like there was 12 or so officers around that guy that got tased on the four-wheeler.
Absolutely.
Those 12 officers did not arrest that officer.
And they should have. And then there was another video you just did where the officer's going, yeah, can you guys help me make up other charges on him?
Yeah,
Whoa. At that point in time, there should have been another officer who said, excuse me. I need a sergeant out here.
Right.
Dude, you need to hand in your badge and your gun because you're not part of us.
And this is that argument that I've been having with that Ken Hollenbeck or whatever. I think that's how you say his name.
Hollenbeck.
I was talking about instead of defending citizens and the Constitution, they're defending the faction.
That's right.
And that's
Madison told us that was
going to happen. They're defending the code.
But that's what Madison told us was going to happen. That's why things were broken down the way they were supposed to be. The problem is, instead of electing people in positions to be the stopgap, we are putting we're putting the fox in charge of the henhouse constantly. Constantly, we're doing it, and we've got ourselves to blame.
Yeah.
But anyway, let me get back to that idea that we've got too many officers that go rogue, or too many officers that not only do they have a bad day, but they go have such a bad day that they execute someone over a traffic stop.
Yeah.
And you've got prosecuting attorneys that decline to prosecute them.
Right.
Now, prosecuting attorneys have discretionary authority,
Sure.
and they should have. Officers have discretionary authority.
I've seen it in action when a guy grabs on me, assaults me, and
That's right.
he don't charge him.
That's right. and that's wrong. This is a republic in which we are all under the law.
Yeah.
Now, I understand their officers do have to have some qualified immunities because they do have to do some things that is not that normal citizens don't have to do, and you have to be kind of protected against some of that stuff. But the other thing is, we've got to be very diligent that when someone crosses a very definite line, that the discipline is swift and sure.
I mean, I don't have the numbers
and deliberate,
and I can't prove it, but I bet if you were to look at all the cases that involve law enforcement, that like charges against law enforcement, finding them guilty is probably a lot less than the average citizen.
Well, I'm going to say this. Once they're in the court, I don't think so. And once they're in the court, I've seen a lot of judges that just do not pull any punches because you should have known better as a law enforcement officer than to do what you did.
The cases usually don't get picked up, or they don't, or they get dropped.
But the ones that do get there. Now, the vast majority of them, what they do is they go, yeah, we got a bad cop, so you know what? Start looking for another job.
Yeah, resign.
I'm going to let you resign.
Yeah.
Okay, now, morally, police chief, sheriff, police commissioner, whoever's the leadership in any law enforcement agency, morally, should you allow that officer to go somewhere else and just be someone else's potential problem?
And that actually extends to all government jobs.
Yes, but we're talking right now. We're just talking
law enforcement.
But yes, you're correct. It goes to all government jobs.
I mean, we've seen it in Hillsdale City with Stephen French. Let's just face
absolutely.
it.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
I mean, that's just the honest truth.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's honest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying nothing personal about the guy, but he did a real shitty job.
That was horrible what he did. But the other thing is, what gets me is, he kind of had stuff like that on his record everywhere he'd been.
Yeah, so they just let him resign wherever he goes.
It wasn't like a big shock that it happened here, right? Certain stripes never go away.
Well, we go back to Shannon. So now we got court date. And, what's funny is when we left the sheriff's office, hold and behold, Shannon gets the call from Kimm. What are you doing? Why are you going over to the sheriff's office? So
I got a defender on this.
Someone called her,
but I got a defender on this.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
she's supposed to do that.
I know who called her. It's somebody inside the sheriff's department. That we won't get into that. But yes, on her defense, if that's your client, you don't want your client talking to the police.
Yeah, not at all.
That's one of the things a defense lawyer will always tell their client is do not talk to the police.
Do not talk. Period.
Yeah, the Fifth Amendment is there to protect the innocent.
Shut
not
your
the
Facebook
guilty.
account down.
Well, Ron White from Blue Collar Comedy, he says something I just love. He said, I knew I had the right to remain silent. I just didn't possess the ability.
Well, most people don't. Most people are good, honest people, so they want to tell the truth.
The more innocent someone is, the bigger the problem is, because they want to go, look, I got nothing to hide. I want to talk.
And that goes to tell you the Fifth Amendment isn't for guilty people.
It's for the innocent.
That's correct. So, all right. So now it's court date, right? And this is what you see on the video. This is court date, and you see Kimm Burger
meeting with her client
in the public room.
Yeah.
I think this is common in Hillsdale.
It is, and one of the problems with the district court is there's never been an office where defense lawyers can meet with their clients, or even the prosecutor. The thing where they go, well, you got to go out and talk to the prosecutor and try to work something out.
I've been to court 100 times. I've never talked to the prosecutor in the aisleway or the lobby or.
You do in Hillsdale. You do it right by the elevator, right, so everybody can hear. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is not the
all
way
the
it should be
court
done.
ladies and stuff like that.
This isn't the way it should be done.
Yeah, it's definitely not the way it should be done. But you see the interaction between Kimm Burger and Shannon. She, in my opinion, I a lot of people say she did her job, or some people at least said she did her job. A lot of people said that she didn't do her job. What my feeling when I was there is she was intimidating him into a plea position.
What I saw from the video, and first off, I want to be fair. Kimm, she does have to try to. She's got to be very careful and to not promising her client anything or saying, yeah, let's take this to jury trial because I think this is crap.
Well, she says,
because if it goes to jury trial, even though you hyped that person up and said, let's go to jury trial because it's crap, and it does go bad in the jury trial, now this person's like, I wouldn't have gone to jury trial, but you told me to go to, So
she says a couple things.
So she's got to worry about that.
She talked about the R&Os that were declined or that got dropped or whatever.
But first, let me defend her because that's the right thing.
Okay.
So it's not easy being in her shoes at that point. It's just not.
And she's not getting any money that day.
Yeah, she's not getting it. Let's face it. She's making probably about
$10 an hour doing that case.
Probably about $60,000 a year total for all of the defenses in Hillsdale that she handles, which. That's more than most people make, but as far as lawyers go, that's nothing.
That's like a fourth.
Yeah. Any lawyer coming out of law school just bouncing around the curb is going to make $150,000, $200,000.
I mean, we're shooting at the hip here, but I mean, she's not making any money on this case, so I understand that her level of enthusiasm isn't really there.
But the other thing is, here's the thing: I've got to. What I saw her, she was a salesperson. She was trying to sell something that her manager, the prosecuting attorney, wanted sold. Now, I know that sounds bad for me saying that, but bear with me here. I remember in the corrections system, in the prison system, you'd have these people go to the academy and they'd learn all these things. They'd learn the policies, procedures, corrections law. We'd learn things, the ACA, which is the American Corrections Association, things that were case precedent cases that shaped, informed policy and why policy was like that. We learned those things, right? We learned certain things to do. And every time somebody left there, and anybody that's been in the prison system can attest to this, as soon as they get to their prison, somebody always goes, yeah, we know what you learned in the academy. Now we're going to show you how it's really done.
Yeah.
Right? And so what happens is what they're telling you is, well, we don't like certain policies, so we're going to show you how to get around them no matter what.
This is how we do it.
This is how we do it, and no matter what. So what happens is, let's say, and that's a dangerous job.
John, we see that on the township level through these rural towns that we've been to.
But let's say in that prison, it's a dangerous job. I mean, I've worked a couple.
It's a heightened.
I was in a riot in Adrian because, I mean, I've been in some dangerous prisons. But what happens is,
listen, John. I mean, seriously.
But
it's just heightened.
But let me finish.
Stop it.
But let me finish.
Go ahead.
The thing here. So what happens is you're in a stressful situation because it is a tough job. It's a dangerous job. Now, Kimm's level of dangerous isn't a physical danger as much as it is
liability.
As much as it is a liable danger, right? Liability danger. So, but the thing is, it's still danger. So what happens is in those situations, you get these officers that if you don't do it the way we're showing you how we do it here, you get ostracized. And what happens is now the other officers, you come in somewhere and sit down to eat, and the other officers get up and leave. They go somewhere else because you're pariah, because you don't do it, because you're Mr. Good Cop. You do it right by the rules. You're Mr. Rule Book. That makes you dangerous. That's because when they come down and tell you, hey, Rutan, you've got here that you saw the officer swing first and not the inmate. We need you to change that report. And you go, I'm sorry, I can't, because that's not what I saw. And your report comes up missing. What happens is your reports come up missing a lot, and you get officers that say, hey, you know what, someday you're going to need help and nobody's going to show up.
Or you get the graveyard shift.
That's right. You get all that stuff. Or you get told, yeah, you know what, go out and monitor that zone because they just don't want you around.
Or you don't get that promotion.
Absolutely. Or you're in a riot and you you get the crap beat out of you, and you get a form letter.
I think the below average person could understand this.
That's right. So this happens. This is the self-evident truth. This is the reality of it. So what happens is a lot of good officers that would be good officers,
or good attorneys,
or people within the system that would be good, out of self-evident truth, slowly but surely, like the boiling of that frog,
yeah,
get turned.
Yeah. I mean, how many attorneys have we heard that says that we don't practice law down here?
Well, yeah,
it's a whole different beast.
Yeah, I mean, we get HJP. We get lawyers in from all over the place, and they come in all gung ho, and we want to help. They get one case done, and they're like, "Holy crap! We don't know what's going on in your county. We don't even want to be there."
We've heard it from lawmakers. We've heard it from attorneys. Yeah. We've heard it from a lot of different people. I'm like surprised on how many people we've heard it from.
All across the state.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not just people from Jackson or Lenawee or
No. This is Ann Arbor.
Yeah, this is from all across. We've met people in Clare that said, Hillsdale, I wouldn't even go in one of those courtrooms down there.
Yeah, that's strange. Yeah. We only got 3 judges or something like that. What's going on down here?
But they already know they're not going to come argue a case.
Right.
They're just not going to.
Right.
Because it's Hazard County.
Right. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So that's, seeing the interaction with Kimm. It was a awkward situation. She thought that I've said something negative about her somewhere before. I never have.
I think she was ascribing it to either Anthony or I.
Yeah, right. I believe so too. I was trying to get make her feel good and gun ho, like we could fight this. Shannon was.
She took it the wrong way.
Yeah, of course, like that offensive. Mm-hmm. And then Shannon, of course, is worried about his CPL. Which is good reason to worry. Having your rights chilled. Well, so he disorderly is what she was trying to get it dropped to. That if you get it disorderly, you can't have a CPL. So she's like, he will not plea. He won't change. She was saying that Neil Brady won't change or take a plea on anything else. Well, after
that's all he would go down to.
Within a few minutes, when Shannon's like, "Well, what about disturbing the peace?" Oh yeah, he'll do that.
Yeah. What disturbed me more than anything else is she says, "Yeah, I think I saw that on the list." Excuse me? So we have a laundry list that we get to pick from?
That could be interpreted 2 different ways, John.
I understand. I'm just saying, if it is in fact a laundry list that we get to choose from, things are really more wrong than I ever.
Why don't we explain both lists so the audience can watch the video and make their determination there? The list is they have a list of, basic misdemeanors, and then it will show like what the CPL will affect and what not affect. And then what you're explaining is that the prosecuting attorney has a list, and that's what's wrong.
I'm not accepting your argument, and here's why.
Okay.
That's because in that, Kimm said, well, I was looking at the different ones and what it would, and I do remember that reading that one wouldn't affect the CPL.
Right.
That had nothing to do with what she was talking about on the list. Watch that video again with a critical eye.
So that you're trying to tell me that Neil Brady has a list.
What I'm saying is, with plea bargains, is here's the felony, here's the different things that we'll plead down to. And the reason why is because now you got to go before the judge and you have to say, based on the facts of the case, that you are guilty of this, and this is what the judge is supposed to do. This is why they have a list that says, so you can't go in and go, okay, grand theft auto, and they go, okay, I jaywalked. There's no correlation. You see what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
So you got to have
a whole
something
different charge or a whole different crime that doesn't match up.
Drove away without permission, right? Okay, that we can get in there. That now it's not grand theft. We'll let you plead it down to
so in this case, resisting arrest would a disorderly would kind of fit
certain things within a list. This scares,
disturbing the peace would fit in that list.
This scares me. This means that we've been doing this way too long, and we've got this choreographed thing that happens.
Not only would the prosecutor be at fault here or be wrong in this position or morally wrong,
but the judge would be morally wrong.
Yeah, Judge Sarah Lisney would be wrong for going along with this.
Absolutely.
Because she would know this is going on. She's not ignorant to this.
No, she's a very astute woman.
Judge Smith, being the chief judge in our community.
He's not the chief judge anymore.
Not
Judge
now,
Lisney
but he was
just
a short period of time.
I know.
He would know this too.
But during this case, Judge Lisney was the chief judge.
I get that, but I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't change the fact that it's morally wrong.
This is going back to the cog of the wrong part. The whole system's bad.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So now, obviously, you watched the 10-minute video. So we go into the courtroom. Now, it says do not bring cell phones or record in the room. I wish I would have, just for my own notes. But it was like 4:45 in the afternoon. There was like 5 people, well, maybe more than 5, but there was just a handful of people in the room. It was quiet because there was nobody in the room. So you got the bailiff, you got the judge, you got Neil Brady that was literally didn't look up one time. He said yes 2 times through the whole process, but he was like reading another case or something.
Yeah,
you got
too busy to pay attention to
you
this
got
one.
The officer was in there. Bednar was in there, and then you got Kimm Burger, and then you got Shannon, and then you had a woman sitting in front of me. And then me. We're all sitting in the room. Now I had my phone on me, and
So you and the woman were behind the bar.
That's right.
Everyone else was in front of the bar.
She was sitting in front of me, and I don't know what she was doing. I don't know if she worked for the court. She wasn't. I don't think. I think she either worked for the court or something of that nature. I was sitting there. I could have filmed it because nobody paid attention. I had my phone with me, and it was open, so I wish I would have just filmed it to see, because I want to tell people or show people how weird this was. Now, the first thing Judge Sarah Lisney does is go, Shannon, and I'm going to try to get to the audio of this, right? Is that what you were saying, John? We need to get the audio of it.
Yeah. We're gonna request
FOIA the audio or purchase it.
$25 for a CD.
So because
I'll guarantee you, if anybody hears this podcast, the first thing they're going to do is the same thing they tried to do to me when I ordered a CD for a situation with when my daughter was in front of Judge Nye. The first thing they did was they put on it that I could not let anyone else hear it, or I couldn't. I was like, yeah, okay.
Oh,
because the other thing is that's when Judge Knight tried
I
to
didn't
order me to violate my First Amendment right, and I just kind of laughed at him.
I won't let anybody listen to it.
No,
right?
bull crap. They can write it on there all they want. We're still going to let people listen to it. Let's put it right out there.
Okay. Well, it was such an awkward experience watching someone that is has these conditions, I guess if you will, try to lie on the stand. Okay, so because
he's not a good liar.
He's not a good liar. So he
sucks at it.
He actually doesn't know what to say. So Judge Sarah Lisney's like, Shannon, tell me what happened. He was like, I guess I didn't cooperate. I think if I don't mistake, it was 6 months ago, so it was a while ago, 7 months ago. So I think that's what he said. I think I didn't cooperate, and she was like, okay. Were you loud? This is when Kimm should have stood up and said, objection, Your Honor. Why are you leading my witness?
Well, she has to, because she has to go by the points of the case to make sure that he's guilty of what he's pleading to.
But Kimm could have stood up and said, what are we doing?
Right. Do you think, okay, here's the other thing. You think that Sarah didn't know?
I do know. This is the point.
She knew exactly that it was a plea.
This is a rodeo.
Something that was worked out. Yeah.
This is theater.
I've got my choreographed little dance I have to do, and if I step out of bounds, the director's going to yell cut.
But this is where I'm chastising Kimm, and people are, if people want to go to the defense or whatever, this is where the rub is. I mean, well, I guess the whole rub is the choreograph.
The whole system.
Yeah, the whole system.
The whole system is the rub.
But Kimm could have stood up and said, objection, Your Honor, why are you leading the witness? All right. So Shannon's like, well,
but then she wouldn't have got the plea.
Right. So Shannon's like, well, yeah, I was loud. She goes, okay, well, did your neighbors hear? Objection, Your Honor. Yeah. Do you want to call on witnesses?
Well, you're asking my client to say what someone else heard.
It was just, and it was so awkward. And Shannon's like, yeah, I mean, they must have heard because I was loud.
See, if I was there, I would have looked at her and said, what do you want me to say? They did hear? Is that what I'm here for the plea. Just give me the plea.
John, I was, and that day, because I was fucking steaming. I was steaming, dude. I was so mad. I was so upset, dude.
I know. You called me just vitriol.
I was like, I couldn't breathe. I was so hot. Like I almost stood up and said something right there on the spot. But I know I would have been held in contempt. Mm-hmm. So she's like, okay, is that good enough, Prosecutor Neil Brady? He's like, yep. That was one of the yelps. The first yelp was when they first started.
Because he was just going through the elements of the crime. Yeah, he said, okay, this, and this. Okay, yeah, we got a guilty.
Yeah. So it was enough for them to hit the gavel and $400 fine, whatever, $400-something fine.
Okay, now we're at the crux of it, right? That's really what it was all about.
It was all about the money.
Yeah, we got to have the $400, right?
Or the conviction.
I heard Sarah one time in the courtroom, and this just blew me away.
No, you didn't hear it yourself.
Yes, I did. I was there with her. I was there in the courtroom with Andy Feather.
Oh, different. This might be something different.
With Andy Feather. I was sitting right there.
This is a different thing.
Because, when we were going through all that thing with Andy Feather, we did the writ of habeas corpus, got him released from jail, did the 6,500 motion, get the felony convictions, the technical felony convictions dropped. Well, during that whole time, we forgot that he had a traffic court to do.
By the way, we're going to have to make this 2 parts.
Oh, no. I'll be quick.
No. we're going to have 2 shows tonight.
Oh, okay.
Because we got to go to the millage.
Oh, that's right.
But go ahead with Andy Feather.
Okay. Anyway, so Andy, doing all that we were doing with Andy, because they'd put him on the sex offenders registry without him ever being adjudicated for any crime ever. And in between that, he had a traffic ticket that he was supposed to show up for court for, and we forgot. With all the other court dates we had, we forgot about it. And I was driving him around, and so Todd Holtz was just hanging out down the street from where he was. He must have been there for 2 or 3 days just waiting for him to come get his mail. And when he got his mail, he followed us and pulled us over and arrested Andy on the spot. So I follow him up to jail. The jail, and I bail Andy out. Now, when I'm up there at the jail, I'm bailing Andy out. I said, how much? Well, it's $300. I said, okay. And so I give him $300, and I start putting him. And they said, well, just put it in Andy's name. Put it in Feather's name. And I said, no. I'm not putting it in Feather's name. I'm acting as the bail bondsman. This happened every time
I've been arrested, too. Yeah.
I said, I'm acting as the bail bondsman here, so I'm putting it in my name.
Yeah.
So I put it in my name. So anyway,
I've had judges tell me directly, if your mom signs over the money, then we'll let you go.
Yeah.
I've had them directly say that to me.
It's because it's all about the money. So anyway, we get into court. And Sarah says, okay, well, you got blah, 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 blah. We're going to just charge the $300, and we're just going to take the, Mr. Rutan paid the bond. Well, we can't take his money. We have to give his money back to him. She says, Mr. Feather, do you have $300?
Yeah.
And he says, Your Honor, he said, at the end of the week, I have $12 to my name every week. $12. He said, now, I can give you the $12 every week, but I'm not going to have the $300 paid in 54 days. It's just not going to happen. It just can't. The math doesn't work out. It just can't happen. And she goes, well, isn't there any family or something you can borrow the money from? She said, I have to have my $300.
I've experienced this there all the time.
Right, but the minute she said that, I voted for Sarah. And the minute she said that, I said, man, am I sad? Am I so sad I voted for her?
Yeah.
That just, principally and morally, I just lost all respect for her.
When you're saying this, it just reflects, for me, my experiences that I've had. Because I've had judges that tell me.
It's all about the money.
I've had judges right there on the spot tell me they're not going to let me go unless my mom signs that over to me, and then I have to give that to them. They extort my family member or friend is what it is.
Kevin Shirk, bless his soul. Kevin and I considered Kevin pretty good friends. He was my lawyer for a while. And that's one of the things I argued with Kevin about. And Kevin and I used to get in philosophical and legal arguments all the time. We had a good time doing it. We always walked away friends. But I said to Kevin, what in the world? I said, I thought we did away with paupers prisons. He goes, John, he said, if Andy doesn't pay that, he's not going to jail because he doesn't have the $300. He's going to jail because he's in contempt. He didn't do what the judge ordered him to do. So I said, okay, Kevin, why didn't she order him to grow wings and fly? And of course, Kevin, in Kevin's way, rolled his eyes and he goes, come on, John.
Yeah, come on,
John.
John.
She can't order him to do something impossible like that. I said, Kevin, if he's only got $12 left at the end of the week, asking him to give $300 in less than 54 days, you might as well ask him to grow wings and fly, right? I said that is impossible. So we do have paupers prisons.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, you can slice it, dice it, and call it whatever you want to. But at the end of the day, That's exactly what we're doing.
Hey,
we're putting people in jail because they don't have the money to pay to the
John,
court.
taxation isn't theft.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge.
So, all right. Well, as soon as she hit that gavel, Neil Brady literally was running for the door. Right, like literally running. Well, I was running right behind him. So I just because I couldn't believe this. I'm fuming. So we get out in the hallway, and I'm yelling at him in front of all the court girls and and the handful.
They couldn't hear it much though because they got that new bulletproof glass.
Yeah, there. But they all looked up. But I mean, I don't think that many people yell at Neil Brady because he was caught off guard.
He sure likes to yell at people though, doesn't he? Yeah. I love it how he tries to intimidate
I've never
me.
seen him yell at anybody.
Oh, really?
So I don't know.
Well, Andy wrote a nice little letter to Neil when he was going through his stuff.
Yeah.
And Neil threatened him on the letter. So we went up to meet with Neil. Neil started yelling at Andy.
Getting loud?
Andy come unglued on him and started yelling right back at him. Finally, we had some other witnesses there. We calmed them both down. But Neil thought he was going to intimidate Andy, and Andy wasn't going to take any of it.
Well, my first interaction with Neil, I was when Fred Fowler grabbed me on my, tried to assaulted me. So when I was sitting there with him on that first time, now he was very snarky, like snooty.
Yeah,
if you will.
That's Neil. Yeah, I'm above you.
Yeah, I'm above you attitude, and he's like, "Come on, John, this is chicken shit." And what's funny is I had my phone in my pocket. Now I did hit record when I walked in the building. But like my chest must have shut it off, or whatever. So when I was up there, I turned my phone directly at him. I said, "Is that your official statement?" And he saw the phone.
He changed his attitude on
instantly. He was like cool with me.
Yeah,
like we were able to be cordial with each other, like mutual respect with each other. Now he's like, "Am I going to see this on YouTube?" I'm like, "No."
You want to?
Yeah. I was like, "No, I'm not going to put this on. This will be under the table." Hey, at this moment, I'm still think I'm recording. But when I left the building, I recognized I didn't have the recording of it. But that was my first interaction with them. So when Shannon's case, when he bolted for the door and I bolted right behind him, we got in the hallway and I started yelling. The first thing I yelled at him, hey Neil, is this that chicken shit stuff that you were talking about? And he turned around with this like above everybody attitude face, and he turned around, looked at me, and goes, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "Isn't that what you told me?" He goes, "I say that all the time." I'm like, "I bet you do, and I bet you're going to have a great day." And I pointed at the cop, too, because by the time this is going on, the cop's standing next to him. Mm-hmm. So I was pointing at both of them, kind of like, being upset at both of them. Then I bolted for the door. Well, I slammed on the window, telling Shannon I was outside. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't arrest me for contempt or some BS, but I'm on the phone with you. I called you, remember? Yeah. So I'm on the phone with you, and within like a minute or two, out comes Kimm Burger in her thigh-high boots walking across the street. And so I yelled to her because it was kind of loud and muffling because of the road with traffic and whatnot. And I was like, "Judge me on my merits, not by the people that I associate with." Mm-hmm. I said something of that nature. Yeah. And she's like, "Don't be so mad." Or
that's exactly what you said because I was on the phone with you.
Yeah. So and she was like, "Don't be so mad," I think is what she responded with. And I was like, that was bogus in there. And she's like, I never said it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And she hopped in her car and drove away. That was really chilling to feel and have someone say that.
Especially when everybody knows that this young man just got run through the ringer and had $400 stolen from him. And armed robbery, whether you got a badge on or not, is still armed robbery.
Well, I think as a whole, I think our society knows this goes on.
Sure.
But how do we stop it, or how do we?
What kills me though is we've got these apologists that are so willing to lick the boots of the authority.
Yeah, bootlickers. Yeah.
That they'll justify anything.
Sure.
That the authority does. Now, this is not what our founding fathers were all about. Our founding fathers were all about being cordial, about being respectful, but also call a spade a spade.
Right.
We have to hold, as a nation, as people, as a citizen, we have a duty to be vigilant and hold and be very critical of our local government.
Well, Shannon comes out. At this point, Shannon's kind of upset. And I'm like, "Well, you took the plea, dude." And He's like,
but he's upset because he felt like he had to.
right. He felt defeated, but yet now,
But he's still relieved because it's off.
Yeah. Probably all kinds of emotions at that moment, you know. And now he's talking about, man, I should just do the appeal, you know. Like now he's pissed.
Yeah.
He starts getting mad.
He's got buyer's remorse.
Yeah, he's got buyer's remorse. Right, exactly.
That's exactly it.
And I'm like,
I see it every day up there at that courthouse.
And I'm like, Shannon,
buyer's remorse.
You don't got the $6,000 to appeal that.
Yeah.
You know, that's just what it comes down to.
Yeah.
You just can't afford to appeal it. And so he was upset, you know.
You're guilty by bank account.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, we all are at some point.
So him and I, we already had the complaint form ready. So we go over to the sheriff's department. You know what? No, we didn't. I called Sheriff Parker and let him know what happened. And then I think it was the following day or the day after that, we went into there and filed the complaint. Sheriff Parker was very respectful, and so was Under Sheriff Albright. They said that Sheriff Albright Under Sheriff Albright would do the investigation, and then they would get back with us.
Yeah, it's always good when the cops investigate the cops.
Well, I mean, but they were pleasant.
I know, but you know, if you ever played basketball and somebody from the other team said, "Hey, our coach is going to be the ref," and you were all right with that?
I know.
Yeah, no, that's not good.
And I think Sheriff Parker and Under Sheriff Albright felt sorry for the situation. I felt
don't feel sorry. Do your job.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just saying that they did show a level of remorse. They did.
Let me play their side of this, because they do the same thing. Are you sorry you got caught?
Yeah.
Or are you really sorry?
I'm.
So are they sorry? Did they have remorse that they got caught?
I mean, if I had to take a shot in the dark, or if I was a gambling man, I don't think so. I think they were genuinely.
Okay, that's fair.
Genuinely apologetic.
That's fair.
And they said they would take a couple weeks in-investigation. Well, Sheriff Albright called the father in, and then he called Shannon back in. Well, that's when Shannon didn't follow up. He didn't go back in. He tells me that he was just tired of it. He was done. He already pleaded guilty. He's like, I'm screw it.
Okay.
But I know he didn't follow through with the last investigation part of him going in and making enough. But he filed a complaint form. They got the police report. So why do they got to keep calling him back in? Is what I'm kind of wondering.
Yeah. The other thing is, what's he going to say different?
At that, yeah. I mean,
it's not already in the part. That's the part that got me. Was on
unless
the video
unless they were to try to get him to say something different.
I know, but what got me was like on the video when Kimm said, "Well, I have to hear the officer's testimony before I." No, wait a minute. You've got a written report. That is the officer's testimony.
Right, exactly. So they already had his testimony, but for some reason they wanted to interview him again. Shannon didn't go in. Now, it sort of ends there in a sense. Now, I did call Under Sheriff Albright, asked him about did he finish the investigation. He said he did. He said Shannon didn't come back in for the last interview, but he reprimanded his officer. Whatever that means. Now,
right.
I got a FOIA that still. I don't know if that's.
You can't.
I was gonna say I don't know if it's for public record or not.
No, you can't.
So
it's the unions have made sure that they've got that public employees have complete privacy on their discipline.
Okay, I don't want to know what the discipline is. What I want to know is if
doesn't matter. They're gonna make it part and parcel.
Well, how do we know if someone's been disciplined?
Because they said so, right?
Well,
see, this is part of the problem. Remember when I was running for sheriff, I said I wanted to start a citizens advisory group?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, this is the whole reason why.
I'm still going to FOIA it
because I want the whole reason why. You're going to get denied.
Yeah, that's okay, but give me the denial.
Okay, that's fine. And sometimes the denial letter is just better. Is just as good as anything else. But
yeah, so I want to know. I
understand.
So, and if he was disciplined, like Under Sheriff Albright said, and I know he could have lied to me, but it's on recording. You know, I record my phone calls, right?
Yeah.
So, like, he did say it. And if that's the case, so he did do something wrong.
But if I shook my finger at you, isn't that discipline?
Yeah, but he did do something wrong, right?
But if I just shake my finger at you, isn't that discipline?
Yeah, but there was an acknowledgement from command staff, that this officer did something wrong.
Right, and if I shake my finger at you, did I discipline you? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
This is the same thing like the guy that they shot in the hotel hallway there.
Well,
and you know, and
that was bad. That was bad.
And then they decide not. And then the prosecuting attorney goes, "Well, you know, the officer followed his training."
I wonder if he's still a cop.
And I've always said that if you're that afraid of people, you probably shouldn't have a gun. And if you're really that afraid of people, you shouldn't have a gun and a badge. That's a dangerous combination when you're that afraid of people.
Well, now fast forward this a little bit, and I put that video content out. Tonight this last night I put out the files for this, and now Shannon's scared. He's texted me a couple of times. He's scared. We talked over the phone briefly, for about an hour, and then he's scared of retaliation. He wants to keep private.
Okay, first off, did you remind him that Sheriff Parker said, if there's anything like that, come see me?
Yeah.
Then
I did.
Needs to, here's the thing.
I built him up a little.
Until Sheriff Parker shows different.
Right.
You have to trust that Sheriff Parker
meant
what he said.
And I trust him. So
he meant what he said.
Yeah, I think he meant what he said. I trust him totally. So I built Shannon's paranoia up a little bit better, and I thought I had it.
No, you didn't build it up. You calmed it.
I calmed it down. Yeah, I took it down a little bit. So I thought we're on the same page. I know he's nervous and doesn't know how to react to this. And then I put out the files last night, and now he's just let everybody know it's 1:30 in the morning here. So
oh yes, it is.
A lot of so that when I say last night, it was like late
hours ago.
Yeah, a few hours ago. But now he's sweating because now we put out the files.
He really has nothing to. He has nothing to.
Well,
be nervous.
This
about.
is what I told him, John. I said this isn't about you anymore at this point.
No, it's about the system.
It's about the system. It's about the deputies that are in the position of this.
It's about waking the citizens up to the system.
It's protecting my children.
Yes.
At this point. So this is beyond Shannon at this point.
Yeah, it's gone beyond him.
And I had to tell him that this is protecting other people in the community. We've had how many people now? A few people contact us now that have ran into similar situations.
But here's the thing: we're throwing the accusation of principles and morals at the people in the system, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Shannon has to stand on the same thing, right?
Hopefully.
In this situation, to help other people that don't have to go through the same thing, then Shannon needs to stand on morals and principles as well.
I was trying to explain
he cannot blame the others for not having morals and principles and then be devoid of them himself.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
Right. Well, everything we put out is public. Or I'm not docking him or doxing him or whatever what it is.
It's called doxing.
Yeah. I'm not. Everything we put out is public. So
right, and just about everybody and anything we redact anything that would that you would redact in an FOIA.
Right.
I mean anything like that we redact, and people know that we help people and that if it needs to come out to help others that it's going to.
Yeah.
People know that right up front.
Yeah.
With us.
And I told him that. I said it's not about you at this point anymore. So it is what it is.
Another brick in the wall.
Yeah.
If we had the music, we'd be playing that right
now. We don't need no music. We're good enough here.
We don't need no stinking music.
So that's where that is, and we had quite a few people that have messaged us, let us, they had similar situations, and if we go down that road, we can go down that road. I don't think we've gone, we took on really any other cases, but they have approached us via Facebook now. But that's the whole that was the whole last week for us.
Well, I think that's a pretty good summary and synopsis of the situation and what happened. Now, of course, when we release this, there's going to be the haters on both sides.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's one thing I always hazard when I got
an open phone.
I know.
They call me.
That's one of the things
or text me or whatever.
That's one of the things I always hazard about bringing things out with law enforcement. It's just like the other day, Noah Huff accused me on Facebook of being anti-law enforcement.
Yeah, John, I mean, I'll be honest with you, we probably don't have to be concerned about law enforcement. You probably have to be concerned about a person that's that's pro law enforcement over the line, like
absolutely,
overzealous or whatever you want to call it. I don't what's the word.
Yeah.
You know, like a neighbor that's like, oh, these guys need to go. You know, like.
And I don't even worry about that. You know, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die. I don't really care.
I'm just saying, like, if they wanted to do something,
Yeah,
I'm not worried about law enforcement.
I'm talking about reality here. What's going to happen is you've got one of the things I hazard about bringing anything out about law enforcement is. I don't like it when I get these people that make these general things. F the cops.
Yeah.
No. That's the wrong response.
I try not to put the likes on when they get that extreme.
Well, I don't even want to.
I'm not trying to support someone that's that's going that far.
No, that demonstrates no critical thought at all.
I understand where they're coming from.
I do too, but that's emotion. That's not reason.
Right.
We need to operate on reason, not passion.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I probably have liked some of the stuff that was probably I shouldn't have, I guess you could say, or like maybe I made a quick light and I was like, second guessed it, but I just left it.
Yeah.
But there was one particularly that caught me off guard. I'm like, you know what? I'm not liking that one.
Yeah, no, and I don't like that. But the thing is, I was just kind of making an inventory of things that were being said today on some of the comments that we'd had against this millage on May 7th.
Well, John, let's end this, and then we'll cut into the millage, and this will stay on the show here.
I know, but let me just finish this thought, and then we'll go into it. Is there was some posts on that, and I thought what was really funny was every time somebody lost an argument with me, or they were losing an argument, the first thing they'd go to is, well, didn't you run a sheriff and lose? Well, then you have no credibility in this.
That's an easy
right. But that's what I'm saying.
That's an easy poke.
But what I'm saying, I just laugh at it because it doesn't hurt my feelings.
I'm going to start using that one.
It doesn't hurt my feelings.
Didn't you lose, John?
Yeah, I did. Well, that's what I said to somebody the other day. They said, "Well,
you loser."
Didn't you lose? And I said, okay, whether I won or lost an election, what does that have to do with the sheriff breaking the law? Are you okay with the sheriff breaking the law just because I lost an election? Then all of a sudden it was well, no, I was just asking a question. No, you weren't. You weren't. You were trying to get under my skin and it caused me to be upset and angry, but I don't give my power up to anybody like that. Then the other thing is that got me is that kept happening. So my answer to that is this. Everybody has been in some competition of some sort, whether they've been in track, baseball, basketball, football, chess, checkers, a video game.
I could drink you under the table. I don't know.
There's a competition, right? So everybody has been in some competition.
I could climb a rope quicker than you.
So my whole thing is, if you compete in something and lose, then you have no credit. You can't talk about that ever again.
Yeah.
So if you play a football game and you lose, you can't ever talk about football because your credibility's lost.
Barry Sanders can't talk about football because he never won the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So your credibility's lost. Now here's the other principle that we were going at. So if you played one football game and lost, you shouldn't ever play another football game ever.
Yeah.
Because you lost.
Right.
You can't compete ever again.
Right.
So these are the two things I was getting at this, that I was just laughing. It was just hilarious to me because the absolute void of critical thought and the ability to articulate any idea or principle just blew me away.
That also goes on the reverse side, on the win side too, because we've heard it from like Ruth Brown, for an example.
Oh yeah,
or I even heard Chuck Bianchi say stuff that was like, I only know how to win. Like things of that nature. So.
Well, but that's kind of that positive. And I'll say this: I never liked Trump because I always saw him as a bloviating bully.
Right,
and he is. But that's part of his persona, and that's why he is such a big winner.
Right.
Because he's got this this I can't ever lose. There's some of that is important.
Honestly,
you have to have that positive attitude.
Honestly, I find that comical. Like, I find it funny because that's the male that's in me. That's funny because that's something I would do to troll someone on purpose.
I never liked it because that's something I would never do.
Yeah,
it just drove me insane.
I would do it, but I would
did not like bullies.
I would do it in a different manner, but I would do it. Yeah. I know what he's doing, and I would do it too.
See, I didn't trash talk people. I don't like to do that. I hate that.
I like doing it on a friendly matter. I don't like doing it on a belittling matter.
Yeah, and I don't even sometimes even on a friendly matter I don't like it because it's just too.
Me and my neighbor do it every day.
Oh, I know, but you two are insane.
I'm like, I can cut grass better than I say silly stuff like I can cut grass better than you.
I know, but you two are insane.
I'm like, I can color in the numbers better than you.
Like
right. we do stuff like that.
I know. But like I say, I didn't like Trump because of that. But I think Trump is the right person for the job where he's at right now. Is he constitutional? Sometimes. Well, sometimes not.
Where I leave at Trump is, he's exceeded my expectations.
He's doing some good things.
That's all I can say about Trump. He's better than what I expected,
and he's better than what we had.
So, God bless everybody. Have a great night. We're going to cut over to part 2.
Read your constitutions.